Introduction. By Fred S. Hirsch, DNS. Professor Arnold Ehret, originator and teacher of the Mucusless Diet Healing System, was born July 29, 1866. On October 9, 1922, while still in the very prime of life, enjoying a superior state of health known to but few men of present-day civilization, he met with an unfortunate accident, suffering a basal fracture of the skull which caused almost instant death. He was destined from early manhood to fulfill the humanitarian mission of physician. Suffering from a sickness pronounced incurable by eminent physicians of that day, and with the sentence of death staring him in the face, it only served to awaken the indomitable spirit that was later proven to be the outstanding characteristic of this wonderful man, and his resolution to cure himself resulted so successfully that he was practically forced by unfortunate fellow sufferers to aid them to regain their health. One might state that even by inheritance Professor Ehret should rightfully become a physician, for his father was a veterinarian, and so success-bound was he in this field of healing that his neighbors of 10 sought his aid for their personal ailments. His grandfather also was a physician, and fate decreed that Arnold Ehret was to follow in their footsteps. The vast knowledge of health subjects shown in the following lessons was gained by him through actual contact with thousands of sufferers who became healed at his sanitarium, most of them from so-called incurable ailments. His dearness of expression, the forceful, logical array of facts in his easily recognizable, convincing manner, is sufficient proof that his mind was not obstructed by any mechanical 9. disturbances. His work was always his ideal. No thoughts of any monetary consideration were uppermost in his mind, for his wants were exceptional. Why few? Here was a master actually practicing what he preached, so that his exteriorly frugal method of living caused him no financial worry. Fearless in speech and writing and recognizing in nature his final judge, Arnold Ehret moved among men, distinctly separate from the majority, yet bearing only goodwill and love for his fellow man. To know him was to honor and respect him, to become intimately acquainted was to love him. The essence of his healing knowledge is contained in the Mucusless Diet Healing System, and while condensed to a considerable degree the work is thorough in every respect. The hitherto veil of mystery is lifted in the characteristically dear and concise manner of Professor Ehret. Simplicity is the keynote of all of his teachings, for he continually reminded that whatever is not simple, easy to understand, cannot be the truth. All disease is known to originate from one source, making the name of specific ailments unnecessary. Recognizing a diseased condition and knowing the proper method of eliminating the condition is by far more essential than a knowledge of its scientific, technical name. In these lessons a revolutionary, entirely new scientific physiology is given to the world. For example, our lungs and not the heart, as erroneously taught, is the PWNP, is proven by undeniable facts. The physical, mental, and even spiritual phases of a natural life are plainly and understandingly explained to the student. Our mind and mental condition influence the body, just as the body influences the mind. And a Dean, pure bloodstream is therefore absolutely essential for Dean, pure thoughts. When sick, it is difficult for one to pray the prayer of faith. Self-sympathy leads the sick one to mentally question the FAMS of a divine omnipotence for being singled out among thousands of other 10 sinners, some of whom are personally known to be much greater violators of man-made laws recognized by the church as sins and yet permitted to go unpunished by an avenging God. The sins against nature are inexcusable, and the inevitable law of compensation must be met by everyone. No pleading of ignorance is acceptable to nature. A discontinuance of the wrong habits is the only method of expiation. It is extremely difficult to concentrate when suffering pain, hence the necessity for re-educating your mind and brain while enjoying good health, rather than waiting until you become ill. You must learn how to operate the law of good health constructively so that you may be prepared to face the unexpected foe, prepared for any emergency. We need health and must have it in order to make the most of life here and now. The Bible tells us, according to your faith be it unto you, but unfortunately when it comes to controlling his own health, man has made very little progress for the past 5,000 years. He studiously learns how to feed the lower animals, but does not know how to feed himself. Ehret's philosophy proves most satisfactory to the thinking mind, for the day of mere theory in science is on the wane. Old worn-out dogmas and beliefs are rapidly giving way to demonstrable facts. Bias, prejudice, and erratic conclusions have always stood in the way of progress, and what the world most needs today is a sound, safe, sane and simple working knowledge of the laws of life. The results of the last few years in world affairs dearly establish the fact that mere faith, dogmatic assertions, and scientific hypotheses miserably fail to solve life's problems. The power to heal is invested in the patient, and as long as there is a single spark of life there is always hope. To hold a fear or doubt that you cannot be well, healthy, happy and successful is unnatural and therefore a hindrance to attaining your goal and a suppression of 11. Your desire. It will be noted that Professor Ehret has used every effort to induce the students to do their own thinking, for he well recognizes the fact that in the final analysis we must do our own curing. Only the knowledge of how to accomplish this much desired condition of superb health can be taught. The main trouble with the average individuals of present-day civilization is that they refuse to think. They prefer mob thinking. Because everybody else does it, it must be right. The real facts prove the opposite to be the case. The genuine principles of healing are simple and few, in fact, so simple that the so-called scientific mind is prone to overlook the vital points of the application of the law. Youth, strength, and happiness need not belong to the young in years alone, for the young in desire and creative energy may also have these much to be desired possessions. Never permit yourself to lose sight of the fact that while there is a spark of life in your bodies, it can be formed into an intense flame. For strength is born of desire. Professor Ehret recognizes a number of causes that produce disease besides mucus, although this word is used in the title. Non-mucus-forming foods are dearly defined, and the student can be guided accordingly. There are instances in which mucus-forming foods may be permitted in the transition diet, in fact, where they are actually desired for reasons that are enumerated in the lessons. The same food that constructs and generates, will, if correctly used, destroy and degenerate, and likewise the very food that will normally sustain life, might in the sick and degenerate body, if used wrongly or even untimely, destroy life. When your life is pulsating with joyous health, then you are living the super life, the birthright of every human being, the joy of living that Professor Arnold Ehret so ardently desired might once more become the possession of all mankind. 12. Biographical sketch of Prof. Arnold Ehret, author of Rational Fasting and originator of the Mucusless Diet Healing System, teacher of dietetic, faster and lecturer. By Prof. B.W. Child. I knew Professor Ehret first as an author, later as a sanitarium proprietor and lecturer, and now esteem him highly as a friend and the pioneer of the most complete, natural, and scientific system or cult for the cure and prevention of disease known. I have no hesitancy in stating that he has evolved and developed what now seems to be the last word in regard to health and longevity. He was born July 29, 1866, near Freiburg, in Baden, Germany, and lived to be 56 years of age, and was endowed by his father with a natural bent or extraordinary desire for delving into the causes and reasons for occurrences and results. Ehret's education was obtained at a college where the long walk added to the other work on the farm, on an ordinary diet, brought on a severe attack of bronchial catarrh. In spite of this handicap, he graduated with honors. His greatest interest being for physics, chemistry, drawing and painting, he took a special academic course and graduated as professor of drawing for high schools and colleges, at 21 years of age. He taught at a college until drafted for military service, but was released after 9 months service because of neurasthenic heart trouble, resuming his vocation as a teacher. At 31 years of age he was quite fleshy and looked well, as others said, but was suffering from kidney trouble, Bright's disease, with consumptive tendency. In his own words, 5 times I took vacations to recuperate, but finally was pronounced incurable and resigned. Then for 5 years. 13. I suffered much from many physicians, 24 in all, and part of this suffering was to pay the bills of about $6,000, but with the result pronounced incurable. Physically and nearly mentally bankrupt, I thought of suicide, but accidentally heard of naturopathy and was treated at a neat sanitarium 3 different times, getting some relief and a desire to live, but not cured. Was treated at 5 or 6 other nature cure sanitariums and tried all other methods known in Europe, expending more thousands, with the result that while not down sick, neither was I healthy. I learned something from the experiences, though. The main symptoms were mucus or pus and albumin in the urine and pain in the kidneys. The doctors, on the presumption that a clear urine indicated health, tried to stop these eliminations with drugs and to replace the albumin by a meat, egg, and milk diet, but it only increased the disastrous results. I reasoned out from these methods what seemed like a great light on the subject, that the right diet should be free from mucus and albumin. My naturopathic treatment drew out some of the mucus by baths, exercise, etc., but fed it back by wrong diet. I resolved to face what seemed a tragedy for me, and does now to most chronically sick persons after getting no relief from doctors, and try for myself that which I had learned from past experience, that wrong eating was the cause and right eating might be the cure. There was vegetarianism, fruit and nut diet, numerous food cures and a few hints that fasting would help. I went to Berlin to study vegetarianism, as there were over 20 vegetarian restaurants there at that time. My first observation was that vegetarians were not much more healthy than meat eaters, for many looked sickly and pale. With the starchy food and milk I grew slowly worse, but started a course of study at the University of Medicine, Physiology, and Chemistry. I visited a school of naturopathy, learned something of mental healing, Christian Science, magnetic healing, etc., all to try to find out the real and fundamental truths of perfect health. Was more or less disappointed and went to Nice, in southern France, and tried a radical fruit diet with the exception of a pint of milk a day, thinking then that I needed the albumin. I made no special application of the fruit diet to my condition, as most others did not, and received but little benefit. Some days I felt well and on others felt very bad, so I soon 14. Went back home, returning to the so-called good eating, as lived and suggested by well-meaning friends, relatives, and physicians. I had learned something about fasting, but it was opposed by all friends and relatives. Even my former naturopathic doctor told my sister that to a person with Bright's disease a few days fast would prove fatal. The next winter I went to Algiers, in northern Africa. The mild climate and the wonderful fruits improved my condition and gave me more faith in nature's methods and an understanding of them, and I gained courage to try short fasts to assist the cleansing properties of fruit and climate, with such results that one morning of a well-feeling day I chanced to notice in my mirror that my face had taken on an entirely new look, that of a younger and healthy-looking person. But on the next bad-feeling day the old and sickly-looking face returned, yet it did not last long, and these alternating changes in my face impressed me as a revelation from nature that I had found out her methods in part and was on the right track, and I resolved to study them more and live them closer in my future life. An indescribable feeling never known before of better health, more vital energy, better efficiency, and more endurance and strength came to me and gave me great joy and happiness just to be alive. This was not only of the physical, but there was a great change in my mental ability to perceive, to remember, greater courage and hope, and above all an insight into the spiritual which became like a sunrise, throwing light upon all higher and spiritual problems. All my faculties were improved, far surpassing their best during my healthiest and best youth. My physical efficiency and endurance became wonderfully increased. I took a bicycle trip of about 800 miles, from Algiers to Tunis, accompanied by a trained bicyclist who lived on ordinary diet. I was never behind him but often ahead towards night when endurance became the test. Keep in mind that I was formerly a candidate for death, so declared by the doctors, but now jubilant that I could surpass the most efficient, and a constant joy of exhilaration having escaped the slaughterhouse of mankind, called scientific medical. Looks. Arriving home again, I demonstrated my ability and endurance to perform the hardest farm labor and in test of strength superior. 15. To those in good training on the ordinary diet, but being surrounded by friends and relatives who were living in the ordinary way and coming in contact with professional men who were excited by fear that my discoveries were of true principles and would eventually succeed and surpass those they were practicing, I gradually took up the ordinary diet. Fasting was then very unpopular, and living in the family of my sister who threatened to prevent it should I attempt one, I could not take up again what I firmly believed and had proven by actual experience, that fasting, simply eating less, was nature's omnipotent method of cleansing the body from the effects of wrong and too much eating. I had also found it the master key to mental and spiritual unfoldment and evolution. I had not neglected the study of the scientific reasons why fruit and mucusless foods were so efficient, and had found that they developed during the process of digestion what was known as grape sugar, and from what was termed carbohydrates by analysis. My experience, tests, and experiments as well as cures, all showed that grape sugar of fruits was the essential material of human food, giving the highest efficiency and endurance, and at the same time was the best eliminator of debris and the most efficient healing agent known for the human body. This was in direct contradiction of the nitrogenous albumin theory of the doctors and scientists, and also of the more modern theory of mineral salts. In 1909 I wrote an article denouncing the metabolic theory, and in 1912 learned that Dr. Thomas Powell of Los Angeles had made the same discovery and was making remarkable cures by using foods containing what he called organic carbon, which is the same food ingredients that develop into grape sugar during digestion. With the embryo of these discoveries in mind and my experiences, I left my friends and relatives, who would have shortened my life by their well-meaning kindness, and, accompanied by a young man who was won by my experience to try with me experimental diet and fasting for his ailments, the principal one being stuttering, went to southern France. Here, during several months of experiments, renewed my experiences in Africa and won a firmer belief than ever that fruit diet and fasting were nature's infallible factors for regaining and maintaining a superior health that is enjoyed by most of civilized mankind. 16. The results obtained were often called miraculous, but were only marvelous because of their rareness. The knowledge I had gained of the wonderful methods by which nature carried on the cleansing from the impurities from wrong food, and then the regenerating, repairing, and strengthening, by the right food, was the marvel, but not a miracle. Especially important were the results on this comparatively young man 10 years younger than I. We made tests with all the general foods of civilization after cleansing fasts. Our now more sensitive organs revolted at once against their undesirable elements and especially against combinations, giving the most convincing evidence that modern cooking, with its mixtures, with but little knowledge of their qualities, was the fundamental cause of all diseases. It is impossible to know what food really is and its effects until the body has been cleansed by nature's own method, a fast. I have never known of such experiments ever being made by anyone, and the facts gained have now been so abundantly proven during many years of the most searching and difficult practice that they have raised my knowledge above all doubts or arguments about the dietetic opinions of others. To test our efficiency at exhaustive labor, we took a trip through northern Italy, walking for 56 hours continuously without sleep or rest or food, only drink. This after a 7-day fast and then only one meal of 2 pounds of cherries. This was called by the professional minds that knew of it a most marvelous test, from their viewpoint. From what came the energy for this efficiency? From nitrogen, albumin, organic salts, fats, vitamins, or from what? After a 16-hour walk I made a test of knee bendings and arm extendings, 360 times in a few minutes, and later numerous strength tests with athletic competitors, showing superior results. These after being pronounced incurable and my father and brother having died of consumption. During our trip through Italy we were often subjects of interesting comments by ladies on our ruddy and healthy complexion and inquiries of how we brought it about, etc. As a completely transformed man, I desired higher experiences, as they were not only physical, but mental and spiritual. The same with my young companion. He was wonderfully improved in many ways, but his stuttering showed no change. I had the idea that even that was caused by a physical encumbrance of 17. Debris. We proceeded to a secluded place on the island of Capri and there took longer fasts and daily sunbaths with heat around 120 degrees of 4 to 6 hours. We were so well cleansed that we did not sweat. On the 18th day my young friend became quite hoarse, and fearing he would lose his voice not then knowing what caused I tended his fast with about 3 pounds of figs, at my suggestion, with the result that for nearly an hour he raised a very large quantity of mucus from his throat and his body cleansed itself in other directions. His voice soon being restored and his stuttering disappeared and has never returned. We had accomplished what his rich father had in vain tried to do by employing almost every known treatment for him, without the slightest permanent improvement. Fasting, nature's supreme remedy, has been so crudely practiced, and is so generally misunderstood, that it is very important that it be rightly explained. From my long experience in curing myself by fasting and mucusless diet, and in conducting fasts for many hundreds in my sanitarium in Switzerland, during a period of over 10 years, I can state with certainty of its wonderful potency and benefits when rightly conducted. My first experiences brought such beneficial results that I desired to perfect and verify the methods employed, so I continued my observations and investigations of and into all phases of life. I made many and very extensive experiments, and then my fully restored young friend and myself started on a long trip. First, through southern Italy, walking and living on an almost exclusive grape diet, then by boat to Egypt, Palestine, Turkey, Romania, and Austria, home. On this trip we learned much of the diet, habits, mentality, and health of the different peoples, and especially in the Orient, and with the result that my belief in the superiority of European civilization received a severe shock, and my belief strengthened that I was on the right track for a knowledge of a much superior health with a better mental development, and a more active and longer life. In Egypt, we saw a race of people of extraordinary strength and endurance, living on a scanty vegetarian diet mostly, but with 2 supposedly bad habits: cigarette smoking and drinking strong coffee, yet we saw not a single nervous or toxemic person. To see how few kinds and how little food they ate, to learn that they are about the 18 same kinds of foods that their ancestors ate, gives one a reason for the superior qualities of old Egyptian civilization. In Palestine we stayed several months, studying local customs, records, and history of past conditions, with the result that my conception of the real meaning of the New Testament Gospels was changed very much. I learned that Christ's life and teachings were in strict accord with now well-known natural laws, which brought him superior intelligence and superior health, but that when written up from current hearsay some 150 years after, was colored by Oriental forms of expression and metaphors, and their incomplete knowledge of natural phenomena. What was marvelous was thought miraculous. His forerunners, his fasting, his diet, and manner of living, and that of his associates, all reveal the natural living which brought him superior health, with no need of any special divine assistance. He verified this by stating that future generations would do greater works than he did, as they would get a better knowledge of natural God's unchangeable laws and methods. My coming book will state, with convincing proof, that Christ's parentage, so-called miracles of healing, and apparent changes of natural law, his resurrection and ascension into heaven, were in accord with natural law, but not then, and not wholly now, understood. The present ignorance of the laws underlying normal health is now, in this century, the greatest of all the past centuries, and is evidenced by the deterioration of the so-called civilized people, health-wise, although advanced far, in many ways. What I have learned by my researches and experiences, and the possibilities of restoring humanity to a superior health, with the advance of modern times, is like opening a book of 7 seals. To show Christ's life in the sunlight of really natural and scientific laws, therefore eternal and really divine, identical with those of our own nature, is an inspiration and an aspiration which many are now enjoying and no one should miss. The other countries visited revealed phases and facts of natural health principles, and I took up with more confidence and enthusiasm than ever before the perfection of my own health by fasting experiments and an improved diet. I instinctively felt and soon proved that certain natural foods prepared in the right way, had a superior energy producing power, and also a superior cleansing power, when rightly used. 19. And in connection with an intelligent abstinence from any food, for the prevention as well as curing diseases of all kinds. That when used in accordance with the individual's encumbrance with disease debris, not germs, and his age, occupation, climate, season of the year, etc., that even the then so-called incurable diseases were helped in a uniform and orderly manner, and to cure certain, if not too much encumbered by habits and age. The right kinds and less food as a preparation for short or longer fasts as the condition indicated, gives the digestive organs a rest or vacation from overwork, and then the resuming of eating by a selection of the right kinds, this being really important, brings wonderfully surprising and beneficial results. I fasted for 24 days with such marvelously pleasing results, not only to my physical condition, but to my mental and my aspirations spiritually, that my enthusiasm increased to tell my friends and others of my discoveries, experiences, and conclusive results. I could not describe my feelings, but told them they must experience them for themselves, which some took up at once. I commenced my educational work by public fasts and lectures, fasting twice in large German cities, and twice in Switzerland. I was sealed in a room by notaries of state, and strictly watched and controlled by physicians, and with no outside interference or communications. One fast of 21 days, one of 24, one of 32, one of 49 days in Cologne, all within a period of 14 months. Between these fasts, and after, my work was lecturing, giving tests of physical and mental efficiency, proving the value of what I had learned and experienced, and these forced me to teaching and advising others, writing articles, and starting a sanitarium in Switzerland, and advising by correspondence. My first written article was after my 49-day fast in Cologne, and published in a vegetarian magazine, stating quite a new experience from fasting, diet, and healing of disease, in fact, of life itself and its enjoyment and prolongation. It had a sensational and revolutionizing effect. It brought me letters of inquiry from all parts of the world, and in Europe particularly, health seekers, reformers and medical men were soon divided into opposers and enthusiastic followers. These writings brought on a scientific controversy or fight over the new principles I had brought to light, that in Europe the two opposing combinations were known as Ehretists and non-Ehretists. 20. The truth of the Ehretists was well described by a prominent editor and reformer as follows: he, Ehret, did not invent or originate fasting, or the use of fruit or improved diet, for those are well known and were used long ago as good factors of naturopathy, but what he did do was to originate an entirely new system of combining them as a systematic healing method, on a basis of perfect nutrition and fasting. My mucus theory, afterwards a proven fact as the fundamental cause of all diseases, was more and more recognized, and consequently my system of healing, too. It has stood the test and brought what one writer has expressed as enormous success, and today has a platform that, natural treatment and diet is the most perfect and success/all system of healing known. It has automatically named itself nutrotherapy and its resulting cult naturopathy. For over 10 years I wrote articles for health journals, lectured in the large cities of Europe, discussing the merits of the system with medical men and professionals, and treating thousands of patients at my fruit and fasting sanitarium and by correspondence, and without changing the fundamental principles, but strengthening them by a better knowledge of their details and how to apply them for best results. From all these was evolved what is now becoming well known in this country name, mucusless diet. I came to this country just before the war to visit the Panama Exposition, and to examine the fruits raised here, and particularly of California, and my enforced remaining here by the war has seemed providential in finding those here who had similar advances, discoveries, and experiences, and we are now advocating and bringing to public knowledge the same principles that were so successful in Europe, in relieving suffering humanity and preventing disease, and developing an improved race of people that will not know what disease conditions are, and bring about a better civilized humanity. In editing Professor Ehret's life work items, I am pleased to add that the discoveries made here by Dr. Thomas Powell, which I assisted in developing and adding to, were intuitively surmised by Professor Ehret, and afterwards found to be proven by his results, and later by reference to chemist Hensel's scientific analysis of foods, corroborated. Are that fruits and vegetables have elements which are superior to those 21 in any other foods, for producing vital energy, both in amount and quality. These elements or ingredients are known as organized carbon and grape sugar. Their presence in sufficient quantities refutes the now current idea that the organic, mineral or tissue salts are the energy-producing elements. They exist only in infinitesimal amounts in all foods, and part of them are drugs. Neither are the number of calories, heat units by calorimeter tests, reasonable basis for selecting a proper diet. My over 40 years of observation, experiences, and research have proven conclusively to me that fruits and vegetables have all the tissue salts needed, and that the presence of actually well-known ingredients in sufficient quantity are the energy and life-supporting ingredients which make them the superior of all other foods, when the debris, mucus, from the mucus-rich foods is eliminated. Then the full beneficial effect of the mucusless diet can be enjoyed. 22. General Introductory Principles. Lesson I. Every disease, no matter what name it is known by medical science, is constipation. A clogging up of the entire pipe system of the human body. Any special symptom is therefore merely an extraordinary local constipation by more accumulated mucus at this particular place. Special accumulation points are the tongue, the stomach, and particularly the entire digestive tract. This last is the real and deeper cause of bowel constipation. The average person has as much as 10 pounds of uneliminated feces in the bowels continually, poisoning the bloodstream and the entire system. Think of it. Every sick person has a more or less mucus-clogged system, such mucus being derived from undigested and uneliminated, unnatural food substances, accumulated from childhood on. Details regarding this fact may be learned by reading my Rational Fasting and Regeneration Diet. Asterisk. My mucus theory and mucusless diet healing system stand unshaken, it has proven the most successful. Rational Fasting, by Arnold Ehret, from the publisher, Ehret Literature Published Nico, 833 East 6th Street, Los Angeles 21, California, price $1 postpaid. 23. Compensation action so-called cure against every kind of disease. By its systematic application thousands of declared incurable patients could be saved. The mucusless diet consists of all kinds of raw and cooked fruits, starchless vegetables, and cooked or raw, mostly green leaf vegetables. The mucusless diet healing system is a combination of individually advised long or short fasts, with progressively changing menus of non-mucus-forming foods. This diet alone can heal every case of disease without fasting, although such a cure requires longer time. The system itself will be expounded in later lessons. However, to learn how to apply the system, to understand how and why it works, it is necessary to free your mind from medical errors, partly taken over by naturopathy. In other words, I must teach you a new physiology, free from medical errors, a new method of diagnosis, a correction of the fundamental errors of metabolism, high-protein foods, blood circulation, blood composition, and last, but not least, you must be taught what vitality really is. To medical science, the human body is still a mystery, especially in disease condition. Every new disease discovered by the doctors is a new mystery for them. There are no words to express how far they are away from the truth. Naturopathy uses the word vitality continually. 24. Yet neither medical scientists nor naturopaths can tell what vitality is. Not only is it necessary to eradicate all these errors from your brain, but to show you the truth in such a new and simple light that you can grasp it at once. This great advantage of simplicity and clarity is one of the fundamental reasons for my success. Withal, my teachings cover the truth. Incidentally, whatever simple reason cannot grasp is humbug, however scientific it may sound. You will learn how wrong and ignorant it is to believe that any special disease can be healed by eating the right food, living upon special menus or undergoing long fasts, if such is done without experience and without system and special advice for each individual case. Fasting has been known for hundreds of years as a compensation against every disease, as nature's only and infallible law, and the same with the mucusless diet, as already stated in Genesis, fruits and herbs, i.e., green leaves. But why did it never come into general use and result in universal success? Because it was never used systematically in accordance with the condition of the patient. The average man has not the slightest idea what the necessary eliminative process is, what time it requires, how and how often his diet must be changed, what it means to cleanse the body of the terrible quantities of waste he has accumulated in his body during his life. 25. Disease is an effort of the body to eliminate waste, mucus, and toxemias, and this system assists nature in the most perfect and natural way. Not the disease but the body is to be healed, it must be cleansed, freed from waste and foreign matter, from mucus and toxemias accumulated since childhood. You cannot buy health in a bottle, you cannot heal your body, that is, cleanse your system in a few days, you must make compensation for the wrong you have done your body all during your life. My system is not a cure or a remedy, it is a regenerati and a thorough house cleaning, the acquisition of such clean and perfect health as you never knew before. Remember, your constitutional encumbrances throughout the entire system are the source of every disease, the greatest and most harmful source of lowered vitality, imperfect health, lack of strength and endurance and any and all imperfect conditions. All have their source in the colon, never perfectly emptied since your birth. Nobody on earth today has an ideally clean body and therefore perfectly clean blood. What medical science calls normal health is in fact a pathological condition. In summa, the human mechanism is an elastic pipe system. The diet of civilization is never entirely digested and the resultant waste eliminated. This entire pipe system is slowly constipated, especially at the place of the symptom and the digestive tract. This is the foundation of 26. Every disease. To loosen this waste, eliminate it intelligently and thoroughly, and to control this elimination can only be done perfectly by the Mucusless Diet Healing System. 27. Latent, acute, and chronic disease is no longer a mystery. Lesson 2. The first lesson has now given you an insight as to what disease actually is. In addition to mucus and its toxemias in the system, there are other foreign matters such as uric acid, toxins, etc., and especially drugs if ever used. I learned through the years of practical experience that drugs are never eliminated as is the waste from foods that are stored up in the body for decades. Hundreds of cases have come under my observation where drugs taken 10, 20, 30, and even 40 years were expelled together with mucus through this perfect healing system. This is a fact of basic importance especially for the practitioner. When these chemical poisons after being dissolved are taken back into the circulation for elimination through the kidneys, the nerves and heart are affected, causing extreme nervousness, dizziness, and excessive heartbeats, as well as other strange sensations. The uninformed stands before a mystery and probably calls the family doctor, who now diagnoses the condition as heart disease and blames the lack of food instead of the drugs he prescribed 10 years ago. 28. The average normal man, considered healthy, has a chronic, stored up accumulation of waste food, poisons and drugs. This is his latent disease. When these latent disease matters are occasionally stirred up, for instance by a cold, he expels great quantities of mucus, and feels unhappy instead of enjoying nature's cleansing process. If the quantity of loosened mucus is great enough to shock the entire system, more or less, but still not dangerous, it may be diagnosed as influenza. If the eliminating work of nature digs deeper into the system, especially into that important organ, the lungs, so much mucus and poisons are loosened at once that the circulation has to work under great friction, similar to a dirty machine or, for example, an automobile running with its brakes set. The friction produces abnormal heat, which is called fever, and the doctors call it pneumonia, which is really a feverish effort on nature's part to free the most vital organ from its waste. If the kidneys are called upon to eliminate this loosened mucus, thereby shocking this organ, it is called nephritis, etc., etc. In other words, whenever nature endeavors to save a human life through her efforts to eliminate feverishly mucus and its toxic products, it is called 29. Acute disease. The medical profession has over 4,000 names for different ailments. The particular or special name of the disease is made up according to the respective local place of elimination, or to the congested point where the bloodstream finds it difficult of passage and causes pain such as pains in the joints, as in cases of rheumatism, for example. For ages, this well-meaning effort and intended self-healing work of nature has been misunderstood and suppressed through the agency of drugs, and the continuance of eating, despite the warning danger signals of pain and loss of appetite. Notwithstanding the help of the doctor saw help, in fact, injurious and dangerous to the patient's life, his vitality and especially his eliminating abilities are lowered, and nature proceeds slowly. Under this handicap nature cannot work as efficiently, requiring more time, and the case is called chronic. The word chronic is derived from the Greek word chronos, meaning time. You will be taught in Lesson 7 more about this mystery. 30. The diagnosis. Lesson 3. Why the diagnosis? Laymen and even some dietetic experts with the exception of myself, believe there is no need for diagnosis. You may ask, since there is only one disease, why the diagnosis? If all sickness is due to uncleanliness from uneliminated, undigested food, mucus, uric acid, toxemias, drugs, etc., why diagnose? We shall now learn why fruit diet and fasting have produced such doubtful results, through their incorrect use and misunderstanding, caused through the belief that general rules of this cure are suitable for everybody and for every case. Nothing is further from the truth. No other cure requires so much individual specialization and continual changing to meet the reaction of the patient. This is why people who attempt these methods of cure without expert advice frequent, why? Bring about serious results. Promiscuous fasting. McFadden, and many others, advise, for instance, fasting is applicable to all cases. I learned through thousands of cases during my experience that nothing requires more individual, different application than fasting and the mucusless diet. Of 2 patients, one may effect a complete 31. recovery after a fast of 2 or 3 weeks, while the other may die from the same treatment. That is why an individual diagnosis of general conditions and constitutional encumbrances is so necessary. Method of constitutional diagnosis. My diagnosis determines the following points. 1. The relative amount of encumbrance in the system. 2. The predominant part, that is, whether more mucus or more poisons. 3. If pus is present in the system, amount and kind of drugs used. 4. If internal tissue or an organ is in a process of decomposition. 5. How far vitality is lowered. You will also learn through experience and observations along these lines that the general appearance, especially the face of the patient, will indicate more or less the internal conditions. Asterisk. Medical diagnosis. Medical diagnosis throws no real light on the subject, although doctors think it more important than the actual cure. It is made up of a series of reports and symptoms and a scheme of experiences from which thousands of diseases are named. Characteristic of the meaningless medical. For further information refer to the Magic Mirror, page 43. 32. Diagnosis is the frequent statement of many patients that the doctors could not find out what I have. The name of the disease does not concern us at all. A man with gout, one with indigestion, or one with Bright's disease may start with the same advice. Whether to fast, for instance, and how long, does not depend upon the name of the disease, but upon the patient's condition and how far vitality is lowered. Naturopathic concepts. Naturopathy is an advance over medicine in teaching that all disease is constitutional. Naturopathy does not explain sufficiently the source, nature, and composition of foreign matters as the fundamental oneness of all disease. Dr. Lahmann said, every disease is caused by carbonic acid and gas. But he did not learn its source in decayed, uneliminated food substances, the mucus in a state of continuous fermentation. Dr. Jaeger said, disease is a stench. Nature gives a diagnosis through bad odor, which indicates how far the inside decomposition has progressed. Dr. Hay of England, the founder of the anti-uric acid diet, bases his conception of general diagnose on the assumption that the majority of diseases are caused through uric acid, certainly an important part of disease matter besides mucus. 33. Naturopathy lays considerable stress and importance on symptomatical diagnosis in spite of the acknowledgement that there is only one disease. Uric diagnosis. Medical doctors and many others consider this special kind of diagnosis as the most important one, but it is fundamentally misunderstood. Beside the digestive tract, the uric canal is the main avenue of elimination. As soon as anyone decreases his eating, fasts a little, or changes oil to the natural diet, he has waste, mucus, poisons, uric acid, phosphates, etc., in this urine, and an analysis of his urine is alarming. The same thing happens in the majority of cases whenever anyone becomes sick. Everyone becomes alarmed at this effort of the body to eliminate waste, which is in truth the healing, cleansing process. Should sugar or albumin be found in the urine, the case is called very serious, and diagnosed diabetes, or Bright's disease, respectively. Under medical treatment, the patient in the first named case dies through sugar starvation, caused through a lack of sugar and sugar pound-warmers in the dietary. In the latter diagnosis, the patient dies from forced albumin replacement resulting from overfeeding of foods rich in albumin. What the body expels is waste, decayed, dead, and simply indicates that the patient is in an advanced state of inside uncleanliness, already causing a decomposing. 34. Of inside organs producing rapid decay of all food taken into the body. These diseases, like tuberculosis, must be treated very carefully and very slowly. How it looks in the human colon. It is of utmost importance that through our diagnosis we must learn as much as possible the general appearance of the inside of the human body. Our diagnosis therefore consists of finding out the degree of quantities of individual waste matter of the patient. Experts in autopsy state they have found that from 60 to 70% of the colons examined have foreign matters such as worms and decayed old feces stones. The inside walls of the overintestines are encrusted by old, hardened feces and resemble in appearance the inside of a filthy stovepipe. I had fat patients that eliminated from their body as much as 50 to 60 pounds waste, and 10 to 15 pounds alone from the colon, mainly consisting of foreign matters, especially old, hardened feces. The average so-called healthy man of today carries continually with him, since childhood, several pounds of never eliminated feces. One good stool a day means nothing. A fat and sick man is in fact a living cesspool. A distinct surprise to me was that a number of my patients in such condition had already undertaken so-called nature cures. 35. Diagnosis, continued. Lesson 4. Fat and lean types. The bodily mechanism of the fat type is, on the average, technically more obstructed, because he is in general an overeater of starchy foods. In the lean type there is more physiological chemical interference with the organism, such a one being in general a one-sided meat eater, which condition produces especially, much acidity, uric acid, other poisons and pus. Disease story. As a general rule I ask my prospective patients the following questions as the knowledge to be gained is of great importance. I. How long have you been sick? 2. What did the doctor call your disease? 3. What was the nature of the treatment? 4. How much and what kinds of treatment taken? 5. Have you ever been operated upon? 6. What other kinds of treatment have you taken before? Age, sex, whether a disease is inherited, etc., are important points. 36. The most important thing, however, is the patient's diet at present, his special craving for certain foods and his wrong habits, if constipated, and how long. What kind of diets, if any, were used before? It is necessary to base the change in diet on the patient's present diet, and only a slight change toward an improved diet is advisable. The experimental diagnosis. The most exact, unerring diagnosis we have is a short fast. The more rapidly the patient feels worse through a short fast, the greater and the more poisonous is his encumbrance. Should he become dizzy, suffer severe headaches, etc., he is greatly clogged up with mucus and toxemias. If palpitation of the heart occurs, it is a sign that pus is somewhere in the system, or that drugs, even though taken many years ago, are in the circulation for elimination. Any inside special constipated place is located by a light pain there. The experimental practitioner can ascertain better than with X-rays through nature's revelation after a short fast the true condition of the inside of the human body, and knows the real diagnosis more correctly than doctors can ascertain with all their expensive scientific equipment and instruments. If this short fast diagnosis is tried on the average man called normal and healthy, but in reality clogged up. 37. With mucus-latent disease nature reveals the same to you in a moderate degree, and if a weak point has begun to develop, unsuspected by them, nature will unerring. Why indicate where and how he will later become sick if the wrong method of living is continued, although it may be after some years. This then is the prognosis of disease. Some special diagnosis. To show that all differently named diseases, even the most severe ones, have their basis and are caused by the same general and constitutional encumbrance of the body, I shall show you, in the light of truth, a few characteristic kinds of cases. Through these illustrative examples I shall prove that there is not a single disease, not a disturbance or sensation, not an unhealthy appearance or symptom, which cannot be explained and seen at once in its real nature as local constipation, constitutional constipation by mucus and its toxemias, most of the quantities continually supplied from the chronic reserve stock of waste in the stomach, intestines, and especially in the colon. The basement of the human temple 1s the reservoir from which every symptom of disease and weakness is supplied in all its manifestations. A cold is a beneficial effort to eliminate waste from the cavities of the head, the throat, and the bronchial tubes. 38. Pneumonia. The cold goes deeper and will eliminate and clean the mucus from the most spongy and vital organ, the lung. A hemorrhage occurs to clean more radically. The entire system is aroused, causing higher temperature by friction of the waste in circulation. That proves alarming, and the doctor suppresses by drugs and food, actually blocking nature's process of healing cleansing. If the patient does not die, the elimination becomes chronic, and is called consumption. The consumptive patient eliminates continually his mucus caused from erroneous. Why increased, mucus-bound forming foods, through the lungs instead of through the natural ways. This organ itself decays more and more, producing germs, and it is then called tuberculosis. The vital organ, lung, the pump works insufficiently on the circulation, the entire cell system decays more and more, and decomposes before the patient dies. Toothache. Its pain is a warning signal of nature, stop eating, I must repair, there is waste and pus, you have eaten too much lime-poor food, meat. Rheumatism and gout. Mucus and uric acid particularly accumulated in the joints, since here is the less dependable part of the tissues. 39. For the passage of the circulation, heavily loaded with waste and uric acid in the one-sided meat-eater's body. RHE stomach is the central organ of disease matter supply. There is a limit to the ability of this organ to digest and to empty itself after the meal. Every food, even the best kinds, are mixed with this acid mucus, continually remaining in the average person's stomach. The wonder is how long a human being can stand such conditions. Goiter is a same deposit by nature of tremendous waste to keep it from entering the circulation. A boil is in principle the same, only the elimination is outside. Stammering. Special accumulation of mucus in the throat, interfering with the functioning of the vocal cords. I cured several cases. Liver and kidney diseases. These organs are of a very spongy construction, and their function is that of a kind of physiological sieve. They are, therefore, easily constipated by sticky mucus. Sex diseases. These have for their origin nothing more than mucus elimination through these organs, and are easily healed. 40. Use of drugs alone produces the characteristic symptoms of syphilis. The more drugs that have been used, especially mercury, the more carefully the treatment must be conducted. Eye and ear diseases. Even short or long sight is congestion in the eyes and trouble with hearing congestion of those organs. I healed a few kinds of blindness and deafness by the same principles. Mental diseases. Besides a congested system, I found that anyone mentally diseased has congestion, especially of the brain. One man on the verge of insanity was cured by a 4 weeks fast. There is nothing easier to heal than insanity by fasting. Such men having lost their reason, their natural instinct tells them not to eat. I learned that if you heal by the Mucusless Diet Healing System all kinds of diseases, most of the patients are relieved of greater or less mental conditions. After a fast comes a clearer mind. Unity of ideas comes to take the place of differences. Differences of ideas today are caused largely by diet. If something is wrong with anyone, look first to the stomach. The mentally diseased man suffers physiologically from gas pressure on the brain. 41. The Magic Mirror. Lessons 3 and 4. Supplement to diagnosis. Since man degenerated through civilization, he no longer knows what to do when he becomes sick. Disease remains the same mystery to modern medical science as it was to the medicine man of thousands of years ago, the main difference being that the germ theory has replaced the demon and that mysterious outside power still remains to harm you and destroy life. Disease is a mystery to you as well as to every doctor who has not as yet looked into the magic mirror, which I am about to explain. Naturopathy deserves full credit for having proven that disease is within you, a foreign matter which has weight, and which must be eliminated. If you want to become your own physician, or, if you are a drugless healer and want more success, you must learn the truth and know what disease is. You cannot heal yourself, or other people, without an exact diagnosis which will give you a clear idea of true conditions. This infallible truth can be learned only from the book of nature, that is, through a test on your own body or the magic mirror, as I have designated it. The sufferer from any kind of disease or any person. 42. Whether sick or not, who will go through this healing process of fasting and mucusless diet, will eliminate mucus, thereby demonstrating that the basic cause of all latent diseases of man is a clogged up tissue system of uneliminated, unused, and undigested food substances. Through the magic mirror a true and unfailing diagnosis of your disease is furnished, as never before. The magic mirror. One proof that your personal, individual symptom, sore, or sensation, according to what your disease is named, is nothing more than an extraordinary local accumulation of waste. 2. The coated tongue is evidence of a constitutional encumbrance throughout the entire system, which obstructs and congests the circulation by dissolved mucus, and this mucus even appears in the urine. 3. The presence of unevacuated feces, retained through sticky mucus in the pockets of the intestines, constantly poisoning, and thereby interfering with proper digestion and blood building. To look inside your body far better and clearer than can be done by doctors with expensive X-ray apparatus and learn the cause of your disease, or even discover some hitherto unknown physical imperfection or mental condition, try this. 43. Fast 1 or 2 days, or eat fruits only, such as oranges, apples, or any juicy fruit in season, for 2 or 3 days, and you will notice that your tongue will become heavily coated. When this happens to the acutely sick, the doctor's conclusion is always indigestion. The tongue is the mirror not only of the stomach, but of the entire membrane system, as well. The fact that this heavy coating returns, even if removed by a tongue scraper once or twice a day, is an accurate indication of the amount of filth, mucus, and other poisons accumulated in the tissues of your entire system, now being eliminated on the inside surface of the stomach, intestines, and from every cavity of your body. You will become further convinced of this fact of this diagnosis of your disease by another surprise in store for you, if you will empty your intestines both before and after the test, with Inner Clean laxative, perfected by myself and consisting of natural herbs, prepared by the Inner Clean Co., Los Angeles, California *. After you have fasted, it is advisable to decrease the quantity of your customary amount of food and eat only natural, cleansing, muscusless foods, fruits and starchless vegetables, thereby affording the body an opportunity to loosen and eliminate mucus, which is, in fact, the healing process. Inner Clean herbal laxative can be purchased at all leading druggists and health food stores, or will be sent postpaid by Inner Clean Co., 833 East 6th Street, Los Angeles 21, California, upon receipt of 60C. 44. This mirror on the tongue surface reveals to the observer the amount of encumbrance that has been clogging up the system since childhood, through wrong mucus-bound forming foods. After observing the urine during this test, by allowing it to stand for a few hours, you will note the elimination of quantities of mucus in same. The actual amount of filth and waste, which is the mysterious cause of your trouble, is almost unbelievable. Every disease is, first, a special, local constipation of the circulation, tissues, pipe system. The manifestation of symptoms, or of the different symptoms. If painful and inflamed, it is from overpressure, heat, or inflammation caused from friction and congestion. Second, every disease is constitutional constipation. The entire human pipe system, especially the microscopically small capillaries, are chronically constipated through the wrong food of civilization. White blood corpuscles are waste, and there is no man in WSTEM civilization who has mucus-free blood and mucus-free blood vessels. It is like the soot in a stovepipe which has never been cleaned, in fact, worse, because the waste from protein and starchy foods is sticking. The characteristics of tissue construction, especially of the important internal organs, such as the lungs, kidneys, 45, all glands, etc., are very much similar to those of a sponge. Imagine a sponge soaked in paste or glue. Naturopathy must more and more cleanse its science from medical superstitions, wrongly called scientific diagnosis. Nature alone is the teacher of a standard science of truth. She heals through one thing, fasting, every disease that it is possible to heal. This alone is proof that nature recognizes but one disease, and that in every body the largest factors are always waste, foreign matter, and mucus, besides uric acid and other toxemias, and, very often, pus if tissues are decomposed. In order to realize how terribly clogged up the human body is, one must have seen thousands of fasters as I have. The almost inconceivable fact is, how can such quantities of waste be stored up in the body? Have you ever stopped to realize the masses of phlegm you expel during a cold? And just as it is taking place in your head, your bronchial tubes, lungs, stomach, kidneys, bladder, etc., have the same appearance. All are in the same condition. And the spongy organ known as the tongue accurately mirrors on its surface the appearance of every other part of your body. Medicine has devised a special science of laboratory tests, urinal diagnosis, and blood tests. More than 50 years ago, the most prominent pioneers of naturopathy said, every disease is foreign matter. 46. Waste. I said 20 years ago, and repeat it again and again, that most of these foreign matters are paste produced from wrong foods, decomposed to be seen when it leaves the body as mucus. Meat decomposes into pus. The light of truth dawned upon me after I had fasted, against the will of the naturopath from whom I was taking treatments for Bright's disease. When the test tube filled up with albumin, I read his thoughts in his facial expression. But to me it proved that whatever nature expels eliminates as waste, whether it be albumin, sugar, mineral salt, or uric acid. This occurred more than 24 years ago, but this nature doctor, a former MD, still believes in the replacement of albumin by high-protein foods. The medical diagnosis of Bright's disease, when the chemical test of urine shows a high percentage of albumin, is as misleading as others. The elimination of albumin proves that the body does not need it, that it is overfed, overloaded with high-protein stuff. Instead of decreasing these poison-producing foods, they are wrongly increased, endeavoring to replace the loss, until the patient dies. How tragic to replace waste, while nature is endeavoring to save you, by removing it. The next important laboratory test is that of sugar in the urine, diabetes. The medical dictionary still calls it mysterious. Instead of eating natural sweets, which go 47 into the blood, and which can be used, the diabetic patient is fed eggs, meat, bacon, etc., and, in fact, actually starves to death through lack of natural, sugar-containing, and sugar-producing foods, which have been withheld. It has long since been proven that all of these blood tests, especially the Wassermann test, are a fallacy. We, as naturopaths, cannot ignore nature's teaching, in any way, even though we may find it difficult to discard old errors hammered into us since childhood. One of the most misleading errors is the individual naming of all diseases. The name of any disease is not important, and not of any value whatsoever when starting a natural cure, especially through fastings and diet. If every disease is caused through foreign matters, and it most assuredly is, then it is only important and necessary to know how great and how much the amount of the patient's encumbrance actually is, how far and how much his system is clogged up by foreign matters, and how much his vitality has become lowered, see Lesson 5, and, in case of tuberculosis or cancer, if the tissues themselves are decomposed. Pus and germs. I have had hundreds of cases tell me that every doctor they called upon gave a different diagnosis, and a correspondingly different name for their ailment. I always surprise them by saying, I know exactly what ails you. 48. Through facial diagnosis, and you will see it yourself in the magic mirror within a few days. The experimental diagnosis. Just as I have already stated in the beginning of this lesson, you must fast for 2 or 3 days. In the case of a fatty type, liquids should be used during the fast. The surface of the tongue will clearly indicate the appearance on the inside of the body, and the patient's breath will prove the amount and grade of decomposition. It is even possible to tell the kind of food they preferred most. Should pain be felt at any one place during the beginning of the fast, you may be sure that this is a weak point and the symptom is not sufficiently developed for medical doctors to reveal it through their examination. Waste will show up in the urine with clouds of mucus, and mucus will be expelled from the nose, throat, and lungs as well as in the feces. The weaker and more miserable the patient may feel during the fast, the greater is his encumbrance, and the weaker his vitality. This experimental diagnosis tells you exactly what the trouble is, and how to correct it by starting with a moderate transition diet or a more radical one, and whether to continue or discontinue the fast. This experiment is the foundation, the basis of the development of the science of nature, cure, physics, chem. 49. History, etc. It is the question put to nature, and she replies with the same infallible answer, always and everywhere. If the patient becomes _purpose, or symptoms of heart trouble occur, you may be sure that he has drugs stored up in his body. A consumptive patient starts with such terrible elimination, after a short fast, that it must be plain to all how ignorant and how impossible it is to try and cure him with good nourishing foods, such as eggs and milk. The above explanation is the experimental diagnosis, and the only scientific one. You cannot secure a better view inside than by this simple method. No expensive apparatus can show more accurately the exact conditions as they exist inside the body. All other examinations, including iris diagnosis, diagnosis of the spine, etc., are never exact and, therefore, not dependable. Nature's mirrors, her revelations, her demonstrations of and by phenomena are magic only so long as you lack the correct interpretation of them. Nature shows and plainly reveals to you everything, far more exact, perfect, and better than all science of diagnosis put together. The prognosis of disease. And now we come to the prognosis of disease. We hear of latent disease. Everyone, no matter to what extent he may enjoy good health, has a latent sickness, and 50. Nature only awaits an opportunity to eliminate the waste stored up since childhood and on. Everyone knows, but fails to understand, that a severe shock, such as a cold or influenza over the entire body, starts an elimination, but, unfortunately, nature is handicapped in her attempted house cleaning, through the doctor's advice to continue eating, through the use of drugs, etc., obstructing elimination and producing acute and chronic diseases. Anyone, even though not sick, especially in the critical age between 30 and 40, may fast a few days, and through the magic mirror, learn the extent of his latent disease, where his weak point is located, as well as the name of his latent disease, and where it will appear. That is the prognosis of disease, and if life insurance companies would only believe in it, would furnish a true and safe method of determining risks. Fasting until the tongue is clean is dangerous. Who can explain why the tongue becomes clean after breaking a short fast with a square meal, and why the magic mirror shows up more waste, if you live on fruits or mucusless diet, after the fast? This is the hitherto unexplained mystery of the magic mirror. And the simple explanation is that the elimination is stopped for a while, through the eating of wrong foods, and as a result you feel better for a time with wrong foods than with fruits. And 51. During this period even the magic mirror apparently misleads you into thinking the body is clean. A return to natural food soon proves otherwise. For the ordinary person it will require from 1 to 3 years of systematically continued fastings and natural, cleansing diet, before the body is actually cleansed of foreign matters. You may then see how the body is constantly eliminating waste, through the entire outside surface of the body, from every pore of the skin, the urinal canal and the colon, from the eyes and ears, and from the nose and throat. You can see how wet as well as dry mucus, dandruff, for instance, is being expelled. All diseases, their pound or, are immense quantities of waste, chronically stored up, and, through this artificial elimination of chronic disease you will agree with me and realize that I do not exaggerate when I state. The diagnosis of your disease of all diseases of mankind, both mental and physical, since the beginning of civilization, proves that they all have the same foundational cause whatever the symptoms may be. It is, without exception, one and the same general and universal condition, a oneness of all disease, that is, waste, foreign matter, mucus, and its poisons. Internal impurity is too mild an expression for chronic constipation. Waste, filth, mucus, stench, offensive odor, or invisible waste, is the true description. 52. The formula of life. The secret of vitality. Lesson BB-PO, VLP. O. H. Equus minus is TE formula of life, and yet at the same time you may call it the formula of death. V stands for vitality. P, or call it X, the unknown quantity in this question, is the power that drives the human machinery, which keeps you alive, which gives you strength and efficiency, endurance for as yet an unknown length of time without food. O means obstruction, encumbrance, foreign matters, toxemias, mucus, in short, all internal impurities which obstruct the circulation, the function of internal organs especially, and the human engine in its entire functioning system. You can therefore see through this equation that as soon as O becomes greater than P the human machine 1 must come to a standstill. The engineer can figure exactly E equals PF, meaning that the amount of energy or efficiency E he secures from RE engine is not equal to the power P without first deducting F, the friction. The ingenious idea of construction of the ideal engine. 53. Is to make it work with the smallest amount of friction. Should we transfer this fundamental and principal idea on the human engine, we see that it involves the terrible ignorance of medical physiology, and that naturopathy found a true way of healing by eliminating obstructions, that is, foreign matters of encumbrance, mucus, and its toxemias. But just what vitality really is and how tremendous it can become, what a higher, superior, absolute health is, has not up to the present date been shown or proven. I will teach in the following lessons a principally different new physiology, based on the correction of medical errors of blood circulation, blood composition, blood building and metabolism. For this purpose it is necessary that you first learn what vitality, what animal life really is. It is generally admitted that the secret of vitality, the secret of animal life, is unknown to science. It will surprise you when shown the truth through a simple, natural enlightenment, and you must admit at once that it is the truth. Always remember this fact: whatever cannot be seen, conceived at once, through simple reasoning is humbug, and not science. The human engine must first be seen before all other physiological considerations as an air-gas engine builded and constructed in its entirety, with the exception of the bones, from a rubber-like, very elastic, spongy material, called flesh and tissues. 54. The next fact is that its function is that of a pump system by air pressure, and with an inside circulation of liquids, such as the blood and other saps, and that the lungs are the pump and the heart is the valve, and not the opposite as erroneously taught by medical physiology for the past 400 years. A further fact, one that has been almost entire, why overlooked, is the automatic, atmospheric outside counter pressure, which is over 14 pounds to the square inch. Immediately upon, and after each out-breath a vacuum is created in the lung cavity. In other words, the human body animal organism in its entirety, functions automatically by inhaling air pressure and expelling chemically changed air and outside atmospheric counter pressure on the vacuums of the body. That is vitality, animal life in the first instance and importance. That is P, power, which keeps you alive. Without air you cannot live 5 minutes. But the unseen fact, let us say the secret, is that it works simply and automatically through atmospheric counter pressure, which is only possible because the engine consists of elastic, spongy material with a vital strain power with an ability of vibration, expansion, and contraction. Those two facts were the unknown secrets concerning the automatic function of P as the phenomena of vitality, and the chemist Hensel has proven through chemical physiological formulas that this special vital elasticity of the tissues is due to a lime-sugar combination. 55. The Latin word spiro means first, air, and then spirit. The breath of God is in fact first, good fresh air. It has been said that breathing is life, and it is true that you develop vitality, health, through physical and breathing exercises. It is also true that you can remove obstruction by higher air pressure and counter pressure in this way. It is true that you remove and eliminate obstructions of foreign matter by local and constitutional vibrations, consisting of all kinds of physical treatments. It is true that you eliminate disease matters and obstructions, and therefore relieve every kind of disease through an artificial speeding of the circulation, giving more air gas and vibrating the tissues. You increase P, power, artificially for a certain time, but you decrease the vital ability of the function of counter pressure, weakening the rubber-like elasticity of the tissues. In other words, you increase P but not V. To the contrary, this is done, and can be done only at the expense of B. You know from experience what happens to a rubber band continually kept stretched or overexpanded. It loses its elasticity. You relieve diseases, but you slowly lower vitality, particularly of the especially elastic and spongy important organs of lung, liver, kidney, etc. You relieve but do not heal diseases perfectly. You lower vitality, just so long as you loosen, remove, and eliminate obstructions, exclusively through political means, agents, and just so long as you do not stop the supply, the taking in of waste, of obstruction. 56. By wrong mucus forming, that is disease building unnatural foods, you lower vitality. Would anyone attempt to clean an engine through a continually higher speed and shaking? No. You would first flush with a dissolving liquid and then change your fuel supply, should it be a steam engine, and obstructions through waste being caused through the coal burning only partly. This involves the problem of dietetics, which culminates in the solution of these questions over its history: which are the best foods? Meaning, which foods give most energy, endurance, health, and increased vitality, or which foods are the basic cause of disease conditions and growing old? What is the essence of life, of vitality, breathing, exercise, activity, a perfect mind, or right food? My formula, the equation shown in the heading, gives the enlightening answer and solves the problem in its entire mystery. Decrease first by decreasing quantities of food of all kinds, or even eliminate food entirely, fasting, if conditions tell you. Second, stop, or at least decrease by all means, obstruction causing mucus bound arming foods, and increase dissolving, eliminating, obstruction removing foods, and you then increase P, meaning a more unobstructed function of P of air pressure, of the infinite, inexhaustible power source. In other words, the problem of vitality and animal life functioning at all, consists in unobstructed, perfect circulation by air pressure, and in a vital elasticity of the tissues through proper food as 57. The necessary counterpressure for the function of life. P is infinite, unlimited, and practically the same everywhere and on everybody continually the same, but its activity slows down in the tempo, speed, as you accumulate obstructions, as you overeat and eat wrongly, lowering the automatic counterpressure of the tissues. You may now see that vitality does not depend immediately, directly, and primarily from food or from a right diet. If you eat too much of the best foods, especially in a body full of wastes and poisons, it is impossible for them to enter into your bloodstream in a clean state and become efficiency-giving vital substances. They are mixed with and poisoned by mucus and autotoxemias and actually lower vitality. They increase O instead of P. You now see and you may realize very deeply that it is worthless to figure food values with the intention of increasing P or V as long as the body is full of zero. This problem is solved by my system, consisting of periodical minor fastings, alternating with cleansing, not nourishing, mucusless and mucus-free menus. Not as wrongly done with the idea that V is directly increased in a sick person through feeding clean food. Remove O through intelligent, personally prescribed menus. P increases automatically after a fast through its unobstructed function. You can now realize how wrong and insufficient it is for people to think that all there is to the mucusless diet is knowing the right foods. 58. Here, then, is the cause why so many fasting, fruit diet, etc., cures fail. The inexperienced layman always comes to the death point. In other words, he removes O too rapidly, too much at once and feels fine for a while, the dissolving process goes deeper. O increases, he feels terribly weak, falls back on wrong diet, and through this wrong diet stops the elimination of more obstructions, feels well again, blames the good food for his weakness and sees the wrong food as the food of vital efficiency. He loses his faith and tells you in all sincerity, I have tried it, but it is wrong. He blames the system, entirely ignorant regarding it, when he alone is to blame. Here is the stumbling block even of other diet experts and naturopaths experimenting in dietetics. Lesson 7 will divulge the secret. Some have had more experiences, but very few think as I do that vitality, energy, and strength is not derived from food at all. They believe it is acquired through sleep, etc. What I have learned and what I know through years of experimenting, fasting and diet, and what I have actually demonstrated can be found in my book, Rational Fasting, but briefly stated, it is this. First, vitality does not depend primarily and directly upon food, but rather from the facts of how far and how much the function of the human engine is obstructed, clogged up by the obstructions of mucus and toxemias. 59. Second, removing O by artificially increasing P through artificial stimulants, shaking and vibrating tissues through physical treatments is always done at the expense of V, veal to one time. Third, vital energy, physical and mental efficiency, endurance, superior health by P, air, and water alone, is tremendous, beyond imagination, as soon as P works and can work without O without obstruction and friction in a perfectly clean body. Fourth, the limit of going without food and before solid food becomes necessary under such ideal conditions, is yet unknown. Fifth, the composition of P, besides air, oxygen, and a certain quantity of water steam, increases but only in a clean body through the following other agents from the infinite. Electricity, ozone, light, especially sunlight, O-no-R, good smells of fruit and flowers. Further, it is not impossible that under such clean, natural conditions, nitrogen of the air may be assimilated. In the F&LT, flowing lesson I teach you a new but true physiology of the body, which is necessary to know in order to understand why and how the Mucusless Diet Healing System functions in its complete perfection, and for this purpose it was first necessary to lift the veil from the secret, from the mystery of vitality. 60. The new physiology. Lesson 6. As you now know what vitality is and how simply animal life functions automatically by air pressure and air counter pressure, on fish, etc., it acts exactly the same, only by water instead of air, you may realize that medical physiology, the science of animal functions, is fundamentally wrong, based on the following errors, which must be corrected by a new physiology. I. The theory of blood circulation. 2. Metabolism or change of matter. 3. High protein foods. 4. Blood composition. 5. Blood building. The error of blood circulation. Medical physiology, pathological physiology, continues to find diseases, the cause of disease, with the microscope. The germ theory is now fashionable. Scientists will never find the truth and never understand what disease is. As long as they have a fundamentally wrong conception of blood circulation. As I have already explained, the fact has been overlooked that the lungs are motoric organs of circulation, and the circulating blood drives the heart the same as the 61. Regulating valve in an engine. That the bloodstream drives the heart and not the opposite, can be seen through the two following facts. 1. As soon as you increase air pressure by increased breathing you speed the circulation and their pound or the number of heartbeats. 2. As soon as you take into the circulation a stimulating poison, alcohol for example, you increase the speed of the heart. As soon as you take a nerve and muscle band paralyzing poison, for example, digitalis, you decrease the speed of the heart. The medical profession has this exact knowledge, but in spite of their knowledge the wrong conclusion that a mysterious power acts on the heart muscle driving the blood circulation is arrived at. Prominent engineers among my patients agreed with my concept after learning this new physiology, saying that the heart would make a model valve for any kind of an engine. How can it be logically proven that the heart controls the circulation if through the circulating blood you can control the heart? Increased air pressure through exercise, climbing a hill or running, increases heart action, for the speed of the valve, as in an engine, depends upon the pressure. 30 years ago a Swiss expert of physiology, although a layman, demonstrated, evidently with animal experiments, that circulation as taught by physiology and as 62. Originated by Professor W. M. Harvey in London 400 years ago, does not exist at all. Of course no attention was given by medicine to his demonstrations. How can a science be erroneous? Metabolism. Metabolism, or the science of change of matter, is the most absurd and the most dangerous doctrine teaching ever imposed on mankind. It is the father of the wrong cell theory and of that most erroneous albumin theory, which latter theory will kill and stamp out the entire civilized WSTEM world if its following is not stopped. It will kill you, too, someday, if you fail to accept the truth that a continual albumin replacement is unnecessary, and that you cannot gain vitality, efficiency, and health by protein as long as your human engine must work against obstructions, which are in fact, the cause of death of all mankind of the Western civilization. The erroneous idea that the cells of the body are continually used up by the process of life and their essential substance of protein and must be continually replaced by high-protein foods, can be and are evident. Why refuted by my investigations, experiments, and observations on some hundreds of pound asters? The facts are as follows, and you will again see that it is just as I teach and as I have experienced. What medicine calls and sees as metabolism is the elimination of waste by the body as soon as the stomach is empty. Medicine actually believes that you live from your 63 own flesh substance as soon as you are fasting. Even Dr. Kellogg believes that the vegetarian becomes a meat eater when he fasts, and naturopathy has taken over more or less in principle these medical errors. One believes that the human engine cannot run a minute without solid food, protein, and fat, and makes the erroneous conclusion that man dies and must die from starvation as soon as all his fat and protein is used up during a fast. I found and have this to state. Lean people can fast easier and longer than fat ones. The Hindu fakir, consisting of skin and bones, the leanest type in existence, can fast the longest time, and without suffering. Where is there any using up of the body in this instance? I further found that the cleaner the body from waste, mucus, the easier and longer one can fast. Their pound or, a fast has to be prepared by an eliminating and laxative diet. My world record of watched fasting of 49 days could be done under the conditions imposed only after using a strict mucusless diet during a long period of time. In other words, I could stand this long fast, and you can stand a fast much easier and much longer the more the body is free from fat which is partly decomposed, watery flesh the more the body is free from mucus and poisons, which are eliminated as soon as eating is stopped, entirely or partly. The human body does not expel, burn up or use up a single cell that is in vital condition. The cleaner, the more free from obstructions, from 64 waste, the body is, the easier and the longer you can fast with water and air alone. The limit where real starvation sets in is yet unknown. The Catholic Church claims tests of holy people who fasted during decades. But the medical error even grows by teaching metabolism, claiming that you must replace cells, which are not used up as you can plainly see, with high-protein food from a cadaver, partly decomposed meat, and which has gone through a most destructive heat process of cooking. That fact is that you accumulate more or less of the waste in your system in the shape of mucus and its poisons as the slowly growing foundation of your disease and the ultimate cause of your death. Human imagination is evidently not sufficient to conceive the tremendous foolishness of this doctrine and its consequences, unmindful that its teachings are actually said to kill the individual and to finally kill all mankind. Medicine and the average man, of course, also believes that you are growing flesh and increasing health if you daily increase your weight by good eating. If the colon of a so-called healthy fat man is cleaned of his accumulated feces, even though he has regular stools, he at once loses from 5 to 10 pounds of the weight called health. Weight of feces, figured by doctors as health. Can you imagine anything more erroneous, more wrong, more foolish, and at the same time, more dangerous to your health and life? That is medical science of metabolism. 65. The new physiology, continued. Lesson 7. High-protein foods. When the movement for naturopathy and a meatless diet began in the last century, the men of medical science were endeavoring to prove by mathematical figures that physical and mental efficiency have to be kept up through daily replacement of protein with a certain quantity for the average man. In other words, it became the vogue, it became a mania, to suggest and to do exactly the opposite of nature's laws whenever a person felt weak, tired rapidly, became exhausted or sick in any way. You now know through lesson 5 the source of vitality and efficiency, and you now know that without food at all, especially protein, the strength of a sick body can be increased. High-protein foods act as stimulation for a certain time, because they decompose at once in the human body into poison. It is a commonly known fact that any kind of animal substances becomes very poisonous as soon as they enter an oxidation with air, especially at a higher temperature as exists in the human body. The learned have gone so far as to prove that man belongs biologically in the class of meat-eating animals, while the descendant theory proves that he belongs to the 66 ape family, who are exclusively fruit eaters. You can see how ridiculous contradictory so-called science is. The fundamental fact and truth of why the grown-up man does not need so much protein as the old physiology claims, is shown in the combination of mother's milk, which does not contain over 2 to 3O/O protein, and nature builds up with that the foundation of a new body. But the error goes further than that in their endeavor to replace something that is not destroyed, not used up, not consumed at all, as you learned in the previous lesson about the medical error of metabolism. The old physiology has a principally wrong conception of change of matter, because these experts, the founders of such a type of science, lack knowledge of chemistry at all, and organic chemistry especially. Life is based on change of matter in the meaning of physiological chemical transformation, but never on the absurd idea that you must eat protein to build protein, to grow protein of muscles and tissue. Most certain. Why not, for instance, is it necessary that a cow must drink milk to produce milk? A prominent expert of physiological chemistry, Dr. Van Bunge, professor of physiological chemistry at the University of Basel, Switzerland, whose books are not endorsing the average standard of medical teachings, says that life, vitality, is based on transformation of substances, foods, through which power, heat, electricity becomes free and acts as efficiency in the animal body. 67. You will learn in the lesson about blood building that a certain change of matter takes place in the human body, and how protein is produced through transformation from other food substances. This change of matter takes place not by replacement of old cells by new ones, but the mineral substances are the building stones of animal and vegetable life, and the replacement is of much smaller quantities than is now taught. The reason a one-sided meat eater can live a relatively longer, certain time than a vegetarian starch eater is easy to understand after having learned lesson 5. The first one produces less solid obstructions by smaller quantities of meat foods than the starch overeater, but his later diseases are more dangerous because he accumulates more poisons, pus and uric acid. If you know the truth about human nourishment and you are going to learn it later, you will be amused to note how the physiologists grope in darkness how they made up a standard quantity of necessary albumin for the average man, which standard, by the way, is slowly getting smaller. They, and even advanced diet experts, estimate without knowing the great unknown, i.e., the waste in the human body. For thousands of previous years man has lived healthier without food value formulas, and I doubt very much if a single one of these physiologists ever gave his chef a suggestion of food values. 68. The entire proposition is a farce, masquerading as a so-called science. A few, like Professor Chittenden, found through experimenting that energy and endurance increased with less food, especially less protein. Professor Indeed proved that albumin need hardly be considered, and Fletcher outdid them all. He lived on one sandwich a day curing his so-called incurable disease, and Eve/Ob had a tremendous endurance. After I had overcome all fear as to the fatal consequences that would befall me if I failed to adhere strictly to scientific protein necessities, I found, experienced and demonstrated the hitherto unknown and unbelievable fact that in the clean, mucus-free, and poison-free body these foods, poorest in protein fruits, develop the highest energy and an unbelievable endurance. If nitrogen, the essential part of protein, is an important factor to keep the human machine running, if vitality depends at all from nitrogen, then it seems to me that under these ideal conditions nitrogen is assimilated from the air. Food from the infinite. P. Power, as a source of nourishment. What tremendous possibilities. I suggest that you read Lesson 5 over again, and you will realize these two facts. 1. The Truth About Human Nourishment is still a book with 7 seals to all mankind, all so-called diet experts and scientific experts included. 69J. 2. The error of high-protein foods as a necessity of health, taught and suggested by medical doctrines to mankind, is in its consequences and in its effect just the opposite of what it should be. It is one of the main and general causes of all disease. It is the most tragical phenomena of Western degeneration. It produced at the same time the most dangerous, most destructive habit of gluttony. It produced the greatest madness ever imposed on mankind, that is, to endeavor to heal a disease by eating more, and especially more high-protein foods. It is beyond possibility to express in words what the error of high-protein foods means. Let me remind you that medicine claims as the father of medicine that great dietitian Hippocrates, who said, "The more you feed a sick person the more you harm him. Also, your food shall be your remedies and your remedies your food." 70. The New Physiology, continued. Lesson 8. Blood composition. The logical consequence of the first 3 errors of the old physiology is the problem of composition of human blood, not only as it should be but as a fact of scientific examination. The error is so great that it borders on one ends and one tie. The problem is this: are the white corpuscles living cells of vital importance to protect and maintain life, to destroy germs of disease, and to immunize the body against fever, infection, etc., as the standard doctrines of physiology and pathology teach? Or are they just the opposite: waste, decayed, undigested, unusable food substances, mucus, or pathogen, as Dr. Thus Powell calls them? Indigestible by the human body, unnatural and therefore not assimilated at all? Are they, in fact, the waste from high-protein and starchy foods which the average mixed eater of Western civilization stuffs in his stomach 3 times a day? What I call mucus as the foundational cause of all disease. Pathology proves that itself, saying that the white corpuscles are increased in case of disease, and physiology. 71. Says they increase during digestion in the healthy body, and that they are derived from high-protein foods. This teaching is absolutely correct, and the logical consequence of the error of high-protein foods. Medical science sees and must see it as normal conditions of health, and that the non-sick must have these white blood corpuscles in his circulation because everybody has them. There is no man in existence in the Western civilization whose body has not been continually stuffed since childhood with cow milk, meat, and eggs, potatoes and cereal products. No man today without mucus. In my first published article I promulgated the gigantic idea that the white race is an unnatural, a sick, a pathological one. First, the colored skin pigment is lacking, due to a lack of coloring mineral salts. Second, the blood is continually overfilled by white blood corpuscles, mucus, waste with white color, therefore the white appearance of the entire body. The skin pores of the white man are constipated by white, dry mucus, his entire tissue system is filled up and filled out with it. No wonder that he looks white and pale and anemic. Everybody knows that an extreme case of paleness is a bad sign. When I appeared with my friend in a public air bath, after having lived for several months on a mucusless diet with sun baths, we looked like Indians, and people believed that we belonged to another race. This condition was doubtless due to the great amount of 72. Red blood corpuscles and the great lack of white blood corpuscles. I can notice a trace of pale in my complexion the morning after eating one piece of bread. This is not the place to bring up all the arguments against this terrible error about the nature and function of the white blood corpuscles believed erroneously by medical science. Anyone desiring a real scientific proof regarding this may read Dr. Thus Powell, Fundamentals and Requirements of Health and Disease, published 1909, a few years after my mucus theory was published in Europe, and later translated into English in 1913 as Rational Fasting and Regeneration Diet, neither of us knowing anything regarding each other's publication. Dr. Powell teaches in principle the same as I so far as the causes of all diseases, the white corpuscles and all these medical errors are concerned. The only difference being that he calls pathogen what I call mucus. In the method of elimination and diet, however, I differ principally and entirely from him, but even in the composition of the red blood corpuscles, the blood plasma et al., the blood serum and the so-called hemoglobin, medical LKF. Science ACS per ECT1 on. The 2 most important facts for us to know are these. First, the much greater importance and vital necessity of iron in the human blood. Second, the presence of sugar stuff in the blood. That great expert of physiological chemistry and mineral salts. 73. Theory founder, Hensel, says in his book Life, iron is chemically veiled in our blood. Doctors could not find it through their lack of knowledge in chemistry. On page 36 of the same book he says, in our blood albumin is a combination of sugar stuff and iron oxide, but not to be found or recognized, discovered, in such a way that neither the sugar nor the iron can be found by ordinary chemical tests. The blood albumin must be burned first to make the test perfect. I presume that the truth and importance is this: the red color of blood is the most characteristic quality of this quite special sap and is due to iron oxide, rust. Therefore, it is self-evident how important iron is in the blood. Further, the sugar stuff is of high importance besides its nourishing quality, as it is an essential part in the perfect blood hemoglobin, which if in a perfect state has to become thick, like gelatine, as soon as it comes in contact with the atmospheric air for the purpose of closing a wound. Read in my book Rational Fasting my test of a non-bleeding, immediate healing wound without secretion of pus and mucus, without pain and inflamm. Mat 1 on. One truth regarding the conditions of the human blood found out by doctors is that acidity is a sign of disease. It is no small wonder that this readily happens with the mixed eater, when he fills the stomach daily with meat, starch, sweets, fruits, etc., all at the same time. 74. Make a personal test if you are not fully convinced. Eat a regular dinner, and 1 hour after eating get it out of your stomach, and you will have a sour fermenting mixture of a terrible odor, reminding you of the garbage pail, and which when fed to hogs causes even these animals to slowly become sick. Or if you do not care to be so heroic, try the following experiment. Next time you sit down to your Sunday dinner, have the menu served for an imaginary guest. Empty his portion in a cooking vessel, using the same quantities as you are eating and drinking yourself. Stir thoroughly. Then cook on an oven at blood heat for not less than 30 minutes. Place cover on vessel and leave overnight. When you remove cover in the morning, a distinct surprise will await you. 75. The new physiology, continued. Lesson 9. Blood building. The problem of blood building in the human body involves all problems of health and disease. In other words, your health and disease depend almost entirely on your diet, whether you eat right or wrong foods, which foods harm you, thereby building, producing disease, and which foods heal and keep your body in ideal condition, which ones build natural, good blood and which ones build wrong, bad, acid, diseased blood. These questions and their correct answers are the fundamentals of dietetics and of my mucusless diet healing system. In this lesson I teach only the principal truth in general. All particulars and details are covered in the entire course. In fact, my diet of healing in its main and essential part consists of building a new perfect blood with continual supply from natural foods with vital elements through which the bloodstream is enabled to dissolve and eliminate all waste, all mucus, all poisons and all drugs ever taken during a lifetime, wherever and for as long a time as they may have been stored up as latent disease in the body. What the official physiology of nourishment teaches for best blood building is doubly wrong. First, principally. 76. As a problem of physiological chemistry. Second, from the truth of nature. Here again I must quote that great authority of physiological chemistry, Professor von Bungay, who personally told me that he does not endorse official, medical teaching. Says von Bungay, life is based on transformation of substances, through which process power, efficiency, becomes free, just as it takes place in every chemical process of transformation from one chemical entity of atoms and molecules into another one. The authors that started physiological science lacked, principally, knowledge in chemistry due to a more humanistic education rather than in science of nature. On the other hand, inorganic chemistry was not sufficiently developed at this time. The misleading idea was again protein. They reasoned as follows: muscles, tissues, the entire body's essential substance is protein, therefore the substance must be introduced into the blood in order to build, to grow. In other words, you must eat muscles to build muscles, you must eat protein to build protein, you must eat fat to build fat, and in the case of a nursing mother, she must drink milk to make milk. As they believed and still believe in metabolism, and the necessity of replacing every day the used up cells, these principles are followed in the diet of the average mixed eater. 77. To take inorganic iron, lime, etc., in an endeavor to replace the same substance in the human body is a similar error. The cow builds flesh, tissues, bones, hair, milk, efficiency, heat, all from grass exclusively. Feeding milk to a cow to increase milk production would be classed as the height of folly, and yet man does this very thing with himself. Today, every substance of the human body is chemically analyzed and doctors dream of perfecting chemically concentrated food substances in the future, making it possible for you to carry your meals in your vest pocket in sufficient quantities to last a couple of days. That will never happen, for the human body does not assimilate a single atom of any food substance that is not derived from the vegetable or fruit kingdom. All manufactured food mixtures, when too concentrated either of the animal or vegetable kingdom, do not build blood but stimulate only. Animal foods cannot build good blood, in fact, do not build human blood at all, because of the biological fact that man is by nature a fruit eater. Look at the juice of a ripe blackberry, black cherry or black grape. Doesn't it almost resemble your blood? Can any reasonable man prove that half-decayed muscle tissues build better blood? Just as soon as the animal is killed, the flesh is more or less in decomposition. Then they are put through the destruct. 78. Tip: process of cooking. No meat-eating animal can live on cooked meat, they must eat it fresh and raw, blood, bones and all. More complete details about the right and natural foods will be taught later, and you will learn the truth. I will only mention at this time one important fact which is essential in my dietetical teaching, and by which I differ from all others, even from other dietetical experts who still believe in concentrated albumin, concentrated mineral salts, etc., being required for good blood building. Albumin is not the most important substance for our blood, nor is it mineral salts alone which build perfect blood. The cardinal standard substance for man's blood is the highest developed form of carbohydrate, chemically called sugar stuff, grade or fruit sugar, as contained 1 noer or less in all ripe fruits, and in the next lower state in vegetables. The newer advanced science teaches that even the small amount of protein that is necessary is developed from grape sugar in the animal and human body. All cereal and vegetable eating animals transform these foods, first into grape sugar, and then as a matter of fact the body in its entirety. But the essential point of disagreement regarding this particular problem is not in the food, blood building problem. Whoever does not know disease latent, acute, and chronic, as taught in lesson 5, will never believe in the truth of human nourishment. 79. As you now know through past lessons, just as soon as the blood is improved through fruits, the average man at once starts the elimination of obstructions. Pound deals better for a while, but when more and more waste is dissolved and with the resultant next shock of obstruction in the circulation, all faith is lost, and he, the doctor and all others blame the lack of efficiency food. He thinks, and everyone suggests, that he needs regular food, which when eaten stimulates him for a while and causes him to believe that it must be the meat and eggs that build good blood. In other words, the problem of blood building through the right and proper food, the dietetical problem in its entirety, will not be solved, and the truth will not be accepted nor believed and practiced by those who have not learned what happens, and just what it means to heal by the new and real blood building foods. This is the deeper cause why doctors believe in and recommend destructive foods, and why the average man keeps them up and increases them continually, for he does not possess the slightest idea of what disease is, and how he daily pollutes his blood. 80. Critique of all other healing systems and unbiased, unprejudiced reviews. Lesson X. The methods of healing are numberless. Outside of a great domination of superstition in this field, the serious methods can be divided into two principally different classes. 1. Medicine. 2. Drugless healing. The history of medicine shows that, especially in the past, drugs and other mysterious inventions were taken from quack's great number of med stanke. A 1C1nes, d-ard remedies, for example, mercury, were first introduced by quacks. The modern serums, etc., are no better regardless of their being scientifically prepared. As we now know exactly what disease is, we may understand a fact medicine cannot explain, and that is why symptoms of disease can be suppressed by drugs and serums to a certain limit. The results are known only through experiences, but medicine does not know why these results special effects happen. This is the secret. If the body of any sick man endeavors to eliminate poisons manifested by any kind of symptoms and a new and dangerous poison is introduced into the circulation, the elimination through the symptoms is more or 81. Less stop because the body instinctively sets to work to neutralize these poisons as far as it is possible. The symptoms return just as soon as the life is saved, and the same procedure is repeated until the patient dies or if intelligent enough casts medicine aside in time and seeks to save himself by drugless healing. The methods of drugless healing are also very numerous, and they can be divided into 3 parts. 1. Physical treatments. 2. Mental treatments. 3. Dietetical treatments. Physical treatments. In general, all physical treatments have a tendency to loosen local constitutional encumbrances through various kinds of vibrations and thermal differences. The neat cure, for instance, is in fact an application of artificial colds which stimulates the circulation and through that, the elimination. Exercise, calisthenics, breathing exercises, massage, osteopathy, mechanotherapy, etc., perform in principle the same. Chiropractic, however, claims a special scheme. The subluxation is removed, but chiropractics, similarly to drugs, may give immediate successful relief from painful symptoms, but as a matter of fact they return sooner or later if the adjustments are discontinued, and wrong. 82. Method of living is persisted in. The cause of subluxation is an accumulation of foreign matters between the bones of the spine, and we know that they have their source through wrong eating, the same as all other symptoms of disease. No doubt the overweight of the average one man, in general, is another cause of subluxation. Under longer fastings I saw N1 any deformed spines improve wonderfully. There are various other methods used to shake the tissues and stimulate the circulation, i.e., electricity, electric light, sunlight, etc. All of these methods help and relieve, more or less, but they can never heal perfectly just as long as they fail to pay sufficient attention to a correct diet. In other words, the elimination of disease or foreign matters will never be complete as long as the intake through wrong foods is not discontinued, and an entirely new blood building is established through real, natural, and clean, mucusless foods. Mental treatments. It cannot be denied that the condition of the mind has an influence on every kind of disease. It is proven that fear, sorrows and worries have a bad influence, not only on the heart and nerves, but on the circulation, digestion, etc. Psychotherapy, mental, and divine healing, Christian Science, have this one great advantage: they save the unfortunate sick from the injuries of drugs. On the other hand, I cannot grant them too much credit, for while 83. They are harmless in a certain sense, they have a tendency, consciously or unconsciously, to keep people in complete darkness as to what disease really is. We who know exactly what disease is, cannot agree with a teaching that endeavors to make sick people believe they can be healed by a miracle, or a forced imagination that they are not sick at all even though they are actually dying that very minute. It is farcical, not to say pitiful, to pray to the Creator for a miraculous healing, rejecting and disregarding real divine foods, the fruits of the paradise, the bread of heaven, and instead stuff your stomach 3 times daily with harmful prepared foods, manufactured by man for commercial purposes, and never destined by the Creator to be man's food at all. It is rather difficult to believe in mental healing at all, after knowing as I do through actual experiences with thousands of patients, that the average chronic sick, especially the well-fed one, is in fact a living cesspool. Nature is the manifestation of the divine laws, and there are no miracles in nature. If you have eaten wrong for 30, 40, 50 years, thereby producing your disease, you must do the necessary compensation as reparation for your sins. You must do the opposite by eating clean, natural, divine food, which will produce health instead of disease. That is as clear as sunlight, and as logical as 2x2 = 4. The philosophy of Mrs. Eddy is a poor copy of Schopenhauer's What of Imagination that the mind only 84 is real, and not the physical. Her logic would be correct if she had said, it was never the intention, nor in the plan of God to produce disease, but as a logical consequence, through disobedience of the divine laws of life, disease is produced. There could be no disease if men would live right, in accordance with the divine story of the Genesis arguments. In the light of evolution we may understand the true meaning of the Lord, even when he says he will punish and kill them till they come back to him. In plain instead of mysterious words, you and all mankind will suffer and die from disease as long as you fail to return again to the laws of the Creator, to the laws of nature, as man lived in paradise. Practitioners of the Mucusless Diet Healing System should avail themselves of the knowledge already gained and live on mucusless foods, the divine clean food of the Genesis, fruits and green leaf vegetables, called herbs, so that they may demonstrate the truth as living example. This will aid the patient to learn and believe the truth as exemplified by yourself, and free his mind from all wrong and superstitious ideas about disease, as well as from all doubts about the one and only way of real health, the compensation of his disease-producing habits. You must heal, that is, free the patient's brain from all ignorance, and lift his mind with the light of TRTH so that he may have unshaken faith to follow your advice with enthusiasm. That is the true essential for mental healing. 85. Confusion in dietetics. Lesson 11. In this very important lesson it is necessary for me to convince you, once and for all, of the following facts. First, that in food, in diet, lies 99.990/0 of the causes of all diseases and imperfect health of any kind. Second, that consequently, all healing, all therapeutics will continue to fail as long as they refuse to place the most important stress on diet. Third, that what I call mucusless diet and mucus-forming foods divides characteristically all human foods into harmless, natural, healing and real nourishing foods, and into harmful, disease-producing ones. Fourth, that all other dietetics are mainly wrong because they lay their stress on food values entirely, whether wrong or not, instead of the healing, cleaning, eliminating values and their efficiency before the healing process is started, going on, or accomplished at all. See Lesson 5. The dietetical problem, what shall man eat to be healthy or to heal his disease, is in fact the problem of life, as little as it is considered or even known as the most important question. Long ago I coined the following phrase, life is a tragedy of nutrition. The confusion and ignorance regarding what to eat is in fact so great. 86. That it must necessarily be called the missing link of the human mind. That medical science and even so-called natural therapeutics, see dietetics in general as a secondary question of healing, is significant. Even the efficiency of a machine depends upon the quality and amount of its fuel. There is no longer any doubt existing regarding the fact that a plant depends more on the kind of soil rather than climate to produce a high quality of fruit. Farmers understand thorough. Why that everything depends on what they feed their livestock. Health and disease of the animal and human body is 99.990/0 dependent on food. This is tremendously manifested by nature through the simple fact that every animal refuses food when sick. The animal instinct of responding to every disease or even accident by fasting is nature's demonstration that health and disease depend mainly and entirely from eating or not eating, as well as the kind of foods. That the average man, and even the reformed doctors, blame everything on earth, excepting food, as the cause of their disease is due to the tragical fact that disease is as yet a mystery in their minds. They don't know, and speaking for the doctors, they don't want to learn, how terribly unclean the inside of the body is, caused through the lifelong habit of overeating 10 times as much as required in many cases harmful foods mostly, or even exclusively. 87. If the average eater, even in so-called perfect health, fasts 3 or 4 days his breath and the entire body as well as his discharges are of an offensive odor which signifies, demonstrates, and indicates that his system is filled up with decayed, uneliminated substances brought in through no other manner than by eating. This accumulated and continually increasing waste is his latent, unknown disease, and when nature wants to eliminate by any kind of a shock, commonly known as disease, he first tries everything to heal himself, excepting to fast, to stop increasing the cause of the disease, the inside waste. You have now learned how wrong medical practice is, trying to stop nature's healing, eliminating process, called disease, and thereby increasing the inside waste through drugs and serums. But natural therapeutics of all kinds of elimination will never heal perfectly just so long as you fail to discontinue the supply of inside waste caused by eating and wrong eating. You may clean, and continue to clean indefinitely, but never with complete results up to a perfect cleanliness, as long as the intake of wrong or even too much right foods is not stopped. If it is a fact that food alone is chiefly to blame for all disease as nature so clearly demonstrates, then it is logical and self-evident that you can heal only by diet, and radically only, if necessary, with the most rational diet, fasting nature's only remedy in the animal kingdom. 88. Therefore, if any kind of diet shall heal it must consist of food, not according to food values as to their nourishing and rebuilding qualities, but according to qualities of healing, of cleaning, and of elimination. Here is the cardinal reason why, as well as where, all other dietetics fail. My diet of healing, the mucusless diet, divides, as stated above, all foods strictly into 2 kinds, certain ones which heal and certain ones which produce disease. It is not sufficient, as the layman imagines, to know which foods are mucusless and which are mucus-forming, but 1. How far and how fast the change can successfully be made. 2. How the combination of different foods has to be arranged. 3. How long and how often fasting must be introduced and combined during the healing diet if found necessary. This is and represents the system of the mucusless diet and fasting as well as what the practitioner has to study and must learn, and what the layman does not know and consequent. Why he must inevitably fail when trying to cure himself with good foods. 89. After the foregoing explanation you will at once see in the following critique of the best known dietetics, why they are imperfect, and why the confusion is so great. In later lessons you will also learn of every kind of food, why it is good, and why bad. In case you are still unaware of the foods which are mucusless, and which mucus-forming, they are as follows. All fruits, raw or cooked, also nuts and green leaf vegetables are mucus-free. All other foods of civilization, without exception, are mucus and acid-forming, and therefore are harmful. 90. Confusion in dietetics, continued. Lesson 12. The average vegetarian diet omits only meat from the menu, and their mixture of larger quantities of fruits, good foods, with eggs and milk cause overeating in most cases being worse than moderate meat eating, and a less M1-XED.1 ET. 3 prominent physicians improve the vegetarian diet, but they fail like all other dietitians on the following single point. They believe, more or less, in high-protein foods during the diet of healing. In other words, all dietitians without a single exception, outside of myself, think that the body, and especially the sick and weak one, requires good, nourishing food to be healed, overlooking the fact that nature alone heals, and does it best by fasting. Please read lesson 5 again, so that you may fully comprehend the reason. Dr. Luhmann, a German physician, proved in his The Dietetical Disformation of Blood, that carbonic acid is the cause of all diseases, but he failed to see the deeper cause, the fermentation caused through mucus-forming foods mixed with fruits. He believed in, and fell a victim to, the protein theory in spite of his greatly advanced knowledge. Dr. Hay, an English physician, with his anti-uric. 91. Acid diet showed much improvement, but failed in the same manner as Dr. Luhmann. Dr. Catani, an Italian physician, made up a diet of fruits, green vegetables, and meat, eliminating all starch, and healed, more or less, including cases of rheumatism and gout, while Dr. Hay blamed meat solely for these diseases. The secret of Dr. Catani's starchless diet is its laxative effect. It relieves like the laxatives contained in mineral water springs, but does not heal perfectly. You can see where the point of confusion lies. Drive S. Graham, an American physician, whose physiology of nourishment was fundamental at the time, improved the bread especially, but the improvement consists not in the fact that Graham, bran, and whole wheat bread is more valuable than ordinary white bread, but through its efficiency owing to a less constipating quality than white bread. White flour makes good paste, Graham, or whole wheat flour does not. Dr. Graham found an opponent in Dr. Densmore of England, who claimed that overeating of bran, whole cereals, and Graham bread caused inflammation of the intestines. This is, of course, an exaggeration, but Dr. Densmore helped the general improvement of dietetics by advocating more fruits and vegetables. Dr. Luhmann, the German chemist Hensel, and some authorities in this country, are the founders of what may be called the mineral salt movement. The stress in this. 92. Dietetic reasoning is placed upon the fact that all acid and mucus-forming foods lack the necessary mineral salts. But it proved a fad like the protein fad, thinking health could be regained by overflowing the body with artificially manufactured mineral salt preparations, and keeping up your old wrong habits at the same time. You improve or leave to a certain limit, but never heal perfectly. In a later lesson you will learn how the chemist Ragnar Berg unproved TS system to a certain degree. He knew. Dehydralyzes acid-forming foods with mineral salt-rich ones. At present among the vegetarian health seekers raw food diet is in fashion. No doubt it represents great progress, but the arguments are partly wrong and lead to mistaken and fanatic extremes. They claim all cooking destroys food values, but it should properly be said, wrong cooking destroys healing value qualities, efficiency, of foods, and can even cause them to become acid-forming. The raw food experts hint on the same wrong stress, as all others, i.e., the higher food value. The entire effect or benefit from raw food is the rough fiber of uncooked vegetables which relieves constipation, and acts as an ideal mucus broom in the intestines. I do not believe that the human body assimilates food value vegetables such as cauliflower, asparagus, turnips, potatoes, or cereals in their uncooked state. After a certain beneficial mechanical cleansing of the bowels through these. 93. Raw foods. A one-sided raw food eater lacks, in fact, the most important food substance, and that is grape or fruit sugar, unless he eats sufficient fruits. Significant and instructive is this experiment. Put a lemon in a moderate dry heat a few minutes, and it becomes sweet, like an orange. You develop grape sugar, but let it bake a little too long, or if cooked, it becomes bitter. On the same principle, all vegetables when baked improve by developing into grape sugar the more or less starch they contain. This is true of carrots, beets, turnips, cauliflower, etc. Raw fruits and, if desired, raw green leaf vegetables form the ideal food of man. That is the mucusless diet. But the mucusless diet as a healing system uses raw, rough vegetables for their cleansing qualities, baked ones as food, and baked and stewed fruits as a less aggressive dissolver of poisons and mucus to moderate the elimination in severe cases. This is one of the most important principles of the system, a point the raw food fanatic ignores entirely. Eating raw potatoes, raw cereals, and unfired pies is, in my opinion, absurd and worse than if they are carefully baked, which means developing the starch into at least partly digestible gluten and grape sugar. Fletcherism. The American, Horace Fletcher, developed a complete dietetical healing system in itself with great success on 94. Himself and others. His theory was to eat whatever kind of food you desired, but chew every bite 10 to 15 minutes. You may eat one sandwich a day and get rid of your trouble. The secret is simply this: it is a camouflage fast. The stomach and intestines have a rest the same as when fasting, and elimination is promoted and the vital organs recuperate. But when continued longer, the bowels constipate from a lack of solid food, and it is said that Fletcher himself died through severe trouble in these organs. Another camouflage fast in its effect is the Salisbury cure. A small piece of beefsteak and a little toast, once a day, nothing else. Relieves, improves, but never heals perfectly. Under the same classification is the milk diet, which puzzles even the most advanced experts of fasting and dietetics by its partial success in many cases. The secret is this: if you replace 3 square meals a day consisting of at least 3 courses each, with a few quarts of milk, liquid, the obstructions in the human engine are much less. Read lesson 5, you feel better and the body partially eliminates and, in many cases, relieves your trouble. But all milk dieting patients suffer sooner or later from terrible constipation because milk is a first-class, sticky mucus former. Schroth cure. This so-called dry cure, founded by one of the great pioneers of naturopathy, is in its effect also a camouflage. 95. Fast. 3 days eating nothing other than dry bread, with nothing to drink, the 4th day unlimited drink of light wine and iom food, combined with all-night wet packs. This causes a tremendous elimination, if you can stand the severity of this horse cure. Schroth had marvelous success and a worldwide reputation, but many who had gone through this quick help many times came to my sanitarium and I found they had very weak hearts and lacked more or less the elastic efficiency of the tissues. Read lesson 5 again, and you will understand the reason at once. I use the same principles of this cure in an improved form in cases where there was no reaction with a drink fast or by the mucusless diet as follows: 2 or 3 days nothing but dried fruits followed by 1 day of juicy fruits and starchless vegetables produces a most efficient elimination, but is only advisable for a little of Y. L strong PEOPIE. There are hundreds of other dietetical cures on the market, and every once in a while one of them becomes fashionable, from the long fast and fruit fast up to the so-called scientifically prepared mixtures of medical and non-medical dietitians. The average health seeker thinks that there is some special food or special mixture to be eaten for his particular ailment and he tries everything but always in vain, as long as he doesn't know and doesn't understand that there is but one disease inside: dirt, waste, and obstructions, and that these obstructions must 96. And can be eliminated only and systematically only be the opposite of disease-producing, mucus-forming foods, that is, by the Mucusless Diet Healing System, a mucusless diet, consisting of fruits and herbs, meaning green leaf vegetables, considered unfashionable since the time of Moses, that great dietitian and faster, see Genesis. 97. Confusion in dietetics, continued. Lesson 13. After this severe critique of all important dietetics, I must admit that I do not deny that all of them possess, and have done, considerable good towards the development of the dietetical solution of the food problem and healing of diseases by diet. Reviewing the entire development during the past 25 years, this fact remains: with the progress of chemistry, medical experts arrive at the following conclusion: we now know exactly all of the elements contained in the human body, and therefore know what must be eaten for upbuilding, for replacement of used-up cells and for producing vitality, efficiency, strength, and heat. You were taught in former lessons why these conclusions are wrong and have produced the protein fat and later the mineral salt fat, and now the very latest fashion, i.e., the raw food fat. Without knowledge of the great unknown, their conclusions must be wrong. This great unknown, unknown to the chemical and medical experts, unknown to the average man and health seeker, unknown to the layman dietitian, unknown to the general dietetical systems, now invoke this great 98. Unknown O1 N my FLV equas. 1 Ormue, LP minus O the waste, the mucus, acids and poisons, the obstruction, or O. In the sick, and also in the average so-called healthy human body. In other words, if human nourishment could ever be figured by mathematical chemical formulas telling exactly what to eat, you will still be fooled by nature just so long as any ideal food is mixed with and put into this waste of mucus and acids already in the human system through years of wrong living. Nature confuses you so long as you fail to recognize her facts and her truths, but nature herself is not fooled. To the average layman, raw food reacts more or less mysteriously as long as it is mixed with your own mucus, as long as it stirs up mucus and its toxemias in the unclean diseased body and eliminates these poisons. All laymen and experts covering the entire dietetical movement up to the present time are puzzled, confused, ignorant and still in complete darkness of the fact that in general the average man first becomes worse, sometimes developing boils and all kinds of sores troubles up to indigestion just as soon as he starts what he believes is a correct and best diet, living on a radical fruit, mucusless or raw food diet. Tell me what to eat, wails the sick. I want a daily menu for my special disease, like a drug prescription. 99. And he then considers that as all sufficient. When the elimination sets in, he says, these foods don't agree with me, instead of recognizing that the transition diet has already started in a moderate way to dissolve and to eliminate the old waste in the body with some disturbance, of course. You must make them realize the necessity of putting up with this temporary inconvenience, and consider themselves fortunate indeed to be able to continue with their daily work instead of undergoing an operation, which would mean months in a hospital. The foods agree with them, but they do not agree with the foods. Now you may understand why the mucusless diet is a system in which every change in diet has certain duties to perform as a diet of healing to be applied systematically according to the condition of the sick. You will now understand why and in what manner I differ from all others. The Mucusless Diet Healing System is not a collection of different menus for every disease. It is not made up combinations of valuable and nourishing foods. It is not like a medical prescription or a compilation of standard diets suitable for all diseases, but it is a system of dietetical changes and dietetical improvements, a system of dietetical elimination of disease matter, waste, mucus, and poisons, a system of slowly changing and improving the diet as a diet of healing towards and up to the ideal and natural food of man. 100. Fruits only or fruits and green leaf vegetables. The Mucusless Diet. It is therefore a personally supervised and in every case different, modified, scientific, systematical, progressive method of eating your way to health, combined if found necessary with short or longer fasts. It is a healing process through which every sick person must go if he wants to be perfectly healed. It is an exclusive dietetical curing and healing, rebuilding and regenerating process based on the use of harmless and natural food for mankind, coined and set biologically by the creator in Genesis. Fruits and herbs, or Mucusless Diet. 101. Ragnar Berg's Tables. Lesson 14. You can now understand that the dietetical problem is not solved as the average man imagines through simply knowing which foods are best and the kind of foods the Mucusless diet consists of. You were taught in the previous lesson knowledge unknown to all others what happens and what must happen in the human body if the sick man eats only the best foods or takes a long fast. Later, you will learn how the stirring up and eliminating of mucus by good foods and fasting can and must be controlled by yourself, the treating physician or dietitian. You may now see of what little value and how injurious it may become for the average health seeker to stuff his stomach daily with terrible mixtures of good food, raw food combinations, in the belief that raw food alone will restore health, without any plan or system, without any regard of the disease and his mental or physical condition. In spite of my antipathy towards faddists, I will submit a selection of tables prepared by one of the most advanced experts of physiological chemistry, Ragnar Berg, of the Special Laboratory for Food Research at Dr. Laumann Sanitarium of Germany. Berg's deductions are as follows. That you must eat as much mineral salt containing 102. Non-acid producing, alkaline containing foods as necessary to bind, neutralize, compensate the harmful acids contained in the acid producing foods which make up the average man's daily menu. In other words, if you want to eat meat, eggs, nuts, milk and starchy foods, you must also eat fruits and starchless vegetables to be healthy. It is surprising to note that the majority of foods he calls acid forming is what I call mucus forming, and what he calls acid binding, non-acid food, is almost exactly what I call mucusless. His tables are undoubtedly the best in existence, and their value for us consists in the knowledge of the good and the bad qualities of every food in percentage. He calls it positive and negative properties. You will perhaps be further surprised to note that he endorses and proves by scientific analysis that my classification of harmful foods, mucus-forming and non-mucus-forming ones or mucusless diet, is correct and scientifically perfect. He proves scientifically what I had long before found out, that every food which contains and produces mucus after decaying in the system produces at the same time acid. Very remarkable and important for us to know is what he found concerning fertilizing and also the result of the average cooking of foods. Ordinary fertilizing by animal and human excrements, or even by too much minerals, sulfuric acid, ammoniac and superphosphate, and by over-irrigating, changes the 103 positive good properties into negative bad ones, or at least decreases the good qualities. The grower secures the advantage as they look attractive, are of good size and weight, and consequently bring a good market price, costing the consumer more for food that is really harmful. This likewise happens through wrong cooking in too much water. The good qualities go into the water and the present day cook throws these valuable mineral salts away. As much more fertilizing is done in Europe than in this country, you can readily understand why specially fertilized, rapidly growing vegetables such as asparagus, cabbage, cauliflower, etc., show less value than may be the case with the same variety of vegetables grown here. In explanation of his tables, Berg states, to these various methods of changing healthy foods into poisons belong sulfuring dry fruits, using benzoate of soda or salicylic acid, both strong poisons, to preserve canned foods from fermentation. The most dangerous one is the method of using the steam of sulfuric acid. Imagine, if you will, how people are fooled by the showing of big fruit and splendid-looking vegetables, nice bright-looking, sulfured fruits. The American eats with his eyes, says Dr. Harry Ellington Brooke, preferring snow white bread, a real starvation food, robbed by refined milling of all mineral salts. One of the highest negative foods in Berg's table. Especially when packed in expensive showy paper boxes. 104. He considers it best, and willingly pays a higher price, little realizing that he is actually eating his way to death with these perfectly combined foods of modern commerce. Ragnar Berg's tables of food analysis showing the positive or good properties and the negative or bad properties in percentage proves how much acid a food produces, at the same time the amount of mucus, and the percentage of mineral salts of the special kind of alkaline to neutralize acids. From my standpoint you can see the qualities of a food in percentage to stir up, dissolve, neutralize and eliminate mucus together with its terrible acid poisonings, stored up in the system since childhood. These tables by Ragnar Berg were published in Germany 10 years after my mucus theory of disease and food qualities had been taught, and Berg unconsciously gave the scientific proof that my mucus theory is correct. The mere fact that some foods given in the list are acid binding does not necessarily mean that I endorse their use. This list is GIN as a comparison only and should be studied for what it is worth. Please understand that I am not endorsing Berg's theories. Undoubtedly by squeezing lemon juice on fish or eating a goodly portion of acid-binding vegetables at the same meal as acid-forming foods are partaken of, the harmful effect is partly lessened. The higher the acid-binding qualities of a food, the 105. 1 are valuable as a mucus eliminator. Black radish when in season, spinach, dandelion, and dill are all excellent. Internal scourers. Berg's tables. Flesh. Name of food. Blood of animals. Meat, beef, veal, mutton, pork, ham, smoked, bacon, rabbit, chicken, ox tongue, fish, whitefish, shellfish, salmon, oysters, herring, salted, eggs, whole, eggs, white, eggs, yolk, milk, human, milk, sheep, milk, goat, milk, cow, milk, skim, buttermilk, cream. 106. Plus or acid bind egg. 5.49. 10.25. 2.25, 3.27, 6.5, 1.69, 4.89, 1.31. 266. Minus or acid forming. 0.0038.61, 22.95, 20.30, 12.47, 6.95, 9.90, 22.36, 24.32, 10.60. 2.75 19.52 8.32 17.35 11.61 8.27 51.83 PIM. Or minus or name of food add binding acid forming. Butter, cow. 4.33 margarine. 7.31 lard, 4.33 Swiss cheese. 17.49. Cereals. Refined wheat 8.32 whole wheat 2.66 farina. 10.00 barley. 10.58 oats. 10.58 rye. 11.31 unpolished rice. 3.18 polished rice. 17.96 cornmeal. 5.37 pumpernickel bread. 4.28 black bread. 8.54 white bread. 10.99 gram bread. 6.13 zweibuck. 10.41 cakes, white flour. 12.31 macaroni. 5.11. Root vegetables. White potatoes. 5.90 sweet potatoes. 10.31 celery roots. 11.33 red beets. 11.37 white turnips. 10.80 sugar beets. 9.37 black radish, with skin. 39.40 horseradish, with skin. 3.06 young radish. 6.05 cabbages. 4.02 red cabbage. 2.20 endives. 14.51. 107. Name of food lettuce head. R. Rhubarb. Spinach. Asparagus. Artichoke. Oikori. Tomatoes. Pumpkins. Watermelon. Cucumbers. Red onions. Kohlrabi root. Cauliflowers. Brussels sprouts, fertilized. Dandelion. Dill, leeks, watercress. String beans, fresh. Green peas, young, fresh. Fruits. Apples. Pears. PLWNS. Apricots. Peaches. Olerize. Sour cherries. Sweet cherries. Dates, dried. Figs, grapes. R. Isms. Raspberries. Oranges. 108. Plus or. Acid binding. 14.128.93 28.011.014.312.33 13.67.281.83 13.501.099 5.993.04 17.52 18.36 11.004.98 8.715.15 1.38 3.26 5.80 4.79 5.40 2.57 4.33 2.66 5.50 27.81 7.15 15.10 5.19 9.61 minus or acid forming 13.15 plus or minus or name of food acid binding at forming lemons 9.90 pomegranates 4.15 pineapple 3.59 banana 4.38 olives 30.56 prunes 5.80 strawberries 1.76 currants 4.43 blackberries 7.14 tangerines 11.77 nuts chestnuts 9.62 acorns 13.64 lentils 17.80 walnuts 9.22 coconut 4.09 hazelnuts 2.08 peanuts 16.39 almonds 2.19 grains beans dried peas 3.41 dried beans 9.70 mushrooms 1.81 soybeans 26.58 rye flour 0.72 oat flour 8.08 Quaker oats 17.65 oat flakes 20.71 sugar cane 14.57 rock candy 18.21 baby foods Nestlé's food 5.99 109 drinks name of food cocoa oilcolate tea leaves tea Paraguay coffee chicory roots beer porter ale grape juice wine white California wine sherry champagne wine Malaga plus or acid binding 53.50 25.49 5.60 7.17 2.05 3.37 5.16 0.59 1.2 1.5 1.96 3.04 minus or acid forming 4.79 8.10 0.28 110 transition diet lesson 15 in the preceding lessons you were taught the foods which are best, as well as those which are bad, and which are the worst ones. You know the exact reason why and also what is going on in the system, what happens with good foods as well as with bad ones in the human body. You have learned that even the best foods which have the highest, most vigorous healing properties can become harmful, even dangerous in the beginning, if not carefully used, that they become mixed with the filthy mucus and poisons which they loosen up in the body, and thereby become poisoned, entering the bloodstream in this poisoned condition. Everything is perfectly performed by nature through evolutional, progressive changes, developments, and accomplishments and not by catastrophes. Nothing is more incorrect than the mistaken idea that a decades-old chronic disease can be healed through a very long fast, or a radically extended strict fruit diet. Nature's mills grind slow but sure. My experience of over 20 years, covering for the most part the extremely severe cases of all kinds of diseases, has proven that a carefully selected and progressively changed transition diet is the best and surest way for 111. Every patient to start a cure, especially for the average mixed eater. As long as wrong foods, foods of civilization, are partly used, I call in a mucus-lean diet. Transition means the slow change from disease-producing foods to disease-healing foods, which latter I call the mucusless diet. The speed of elimination depends upon quantities and qualities of food and can therefore be controlled and regulated according to the condition of the patient. The worst and by far the most unhealthy habit is the heavy breakfast. No solid food should be eaten in the early morning at all if you desire to secure the best results. It is permissible to take the drink that you are accustomed to, but nothing else. If you find this difficult to do in the beginning, you may drink again later on so that your lunch is taken in the empty stomach. This is so very important that a number of light diseases can be cured by the so-called no breakfast plan alone. This subject is more fully covered in fasting lesson 17, 18, 19, 20. It is best that no more than 2 meals a day be eaten, even though the quantity you eat is as much as if 3 or even 4 meals were eaten. Later, when the stomach is cleaner, a small dish of fresh fruits when in season may be eaten for breakfast if desired. If possible, the first meal, lunch, should be eaten between 10 and 11 in the morning, and supper not sooner than 5 or 6 in the after. 112. Noon. Another very important rule, when eating for health, is simplicity. In other words, do not mix too many kinds of food at one meal. Count the different number of items in the average meal of today and the total will startle you. Never drink during a meal. If accustomed to tea or coffee, wait a short while after you have eaten before drinking. Soups should be avoided with meals, as the more liquid taken the more difficult for proper digestion. If a warm drink is desired, for instance, as a breakdown ast drink during the winter time, make a broth by cooking for a long time different kinds of vegetables, such as spinach, onions, carrots, cabbages, etc., and drink the juice only. Menus for the first 2 weeks. Lunch, a combination salad, consisting of raw grated carrots or cold slaw or both, half and half, and 2 or 3 spoonfuls of a stewed or canned vegetable, such as green peas, string beans, or spinach. Add to this one of the following items, whatever is in season: cucumbers, tomatoes, green onions, lettuce or other green leaf vegetables, celery, etc., but only a sufficient quantity for a flavoring. You may make an oil dressing according to your taste if desired, using lemon juice instead of vinegar for flavoring purposes only. The rest of the meal should consist of one baked or stewed vegetable such as cauli. 113. Flowers, beets, parsnips, turnips, squash, etc. If you still feel as though you were hungry, you may eat a small-sized baked potato or one slice of toasted bran or whole wheat bread. Fats of any kind, including the ordinary butter, are unnatural and therefore should not be eaten. However, should you crave fats, it is best to use peanut butter or some other nut butter on your bread. During the winter months, canned vegetables may be used when green vegetables are not available. Drink the juice separately in the morning and mix the green or string beans or spinach, etc., with the salad stock as described above of cold slaw or raw carrots. The object of this menu is to supply the broom to provide means for mechanically cleansing the digestive tract by quantities of raw, baked and stewed starchless vegetables. This may be called Ehret's standard combination salad, the intestinal broom spoken of so frequently, and so necessary for properly eliminating the stored up poisons now being loosened during the body's house cleaning. Supper, mix, half and half, a stewed fruit such as applesauce, stewed dried apricots, stewed dried peaches, or stewed prunes with cottage cheese or with some very ripe bananas, mashed, sweetened with brown sugar or honey to taste. The bananas would be for a less mucus or less acid stomach. 114. Menus for the second 2 weeks. Lunch, first a baked apple, applesauce, or other stewed dried fruit. After 10 or 15 minutes, a combination salad as suggested in first menu, and bran or whole wheat bread toasted if still hungry. Cow butter should be gradually avoided and replaced by a vegetable or nut butter during the transition. By allowing the cooked vegetables to soak on the salad for 10 to 15 minutes, it serves the purpose of a dressing. Supper, a baked or stewed vegetable as suggested in the first menu, followed with a vegetable salad made of lettuce and cucumber or raw celery or a little cold slaw. Menus for the third 2 weeks. Lunch, during the summer this should be an exclusive fruit meal, one kind only. In winter as/v dried fruit, for example, prunes, figs, raisins or dates eaten with apples or oranges, or the dried fruits can be chewed together with a very few nuts, and then followed by the fresh fruits. If in the beginning this fails to satisfy, wait for 10 or 15 minutes and then eat a few leaves of lettuce or a cold vegetable either cooked or raw, but just a small quantity. Supper, a combination salad as suggested in the first menu, followed by a baked vegetable. Menus for the fourth 2 weeks. Lunch, fruits as in previous menus. 115. Supper, first eat fruits, either baked or stewed, or fresh, followed a little later by a cold cooked vegetable or better still a vegetable as salad. If you find that you are losing weight too rapidly, the elimination should be slowed down by eating bread or potatoes after the vegetables. Should you feel an intense craving, in the beginning, for meat, a great desire returning which you cannot resist, then eat vegetables only on that day, and no fruits. A dissolved mystery. The reason doctors and even naturopaths in general, as well as the layman, do not believe in fruit diet or mucusless diet, is simply this: whoever experiments without experience with this diet of healing, whether sick or well, loses his faith immediately, as soon as he has a crisis, becomes what he believes to be seriously ill, that is to say, a day on which a great amount of dissolved waste, debris, mucus, and other poisons are taken back into the circulation, a day of great elimination. This produces at the same time a strong, almost irresistible craving for wrong foods and, strange as it may seem, the patient most strong. Why craves for the wrong food which was once his favorite? This is explained by the fact that nature is eliminating through the circulation the waste of these foods, and it is when they are in the circulation the craving and desire is naturally enough produced. 116. This then is why it is of extreme importance that every meal of a diet of healing and cleansing must leave the body as soon as possible. Being mixed with the loosened and dissolved poisons, they cause these uncomfortable conditions, a fact that has never before been perfectly understood or explained. Certain foods prove more laxative under certain conditions. Therefore, eat the foods that you have personally found to be the most laxative in your own body. If you do not experience a regular bowel movement before retiring, always help with an enema, a laxative or both. A natural laxative help, which you will undoubtedly find very efficient, is eating a few dried prunes before the other fruits are taken. A very good aid to elimination which can be used during the transition diet period, until the bowels are cleansed from the old sticky waste, and until such time as the bowels act freely from the new diet, is Interclean, *, a harmless laxative herb vegetable compound, perfected by myself, and the most efficient intestinal broom and bowel regulator known. * 60C per package at your druggist, health food dealer, or postpaid from the Interclean Co., 833 East 6th Street, Los Angeles 21, California. 117. Transition diet, continued. Lesson 16. Special transition recipes. Being known as a diet expert, I receive continual requests for a diet book, or at least a collection of food combinations, mucusless recipes, and menus. Many volumes have already been published by numerous dietitians, which are now on the market, varying in price from $2 to $10. They call it scientific diet, but not one of them is in accord with nature, such as exists in the animal kingdom, and which is simplicity, with absolutely no mixtures at all. I must again remind you that cattle, for instance, when in the /wilderness, eat absolutely nothing else than grass during their entire life. No animal when eating combines different foods at the same time or even drinks between mouthfuls of food, with the possible exception of domesticated animals changed into mixed eaters by civilized man. The ideal and at the same time most natural method of eating for man is one kind of fresh fruit in season, and you will soon notice after you have been living on the transition diet for a while, that you will feel more satisfied and in fact are better nourished with one kind of fruit, than with all kinds of scientific mixtures or prepared, made. 118. Up foods. This condition cannot of course take place until your body is perfectly clean. During the transition diet I use food combinations and mixtures prepared from cooked, steamed, or baked foods for technical reasons, to better perform the healing process intelligently, systematically, and under control. Vegetables and fruits. My experience has taught me that only raw celery, lettuce, carrots, and beets combine well with fruits. In general, it is best never to use more than 3 kinds with the same combination. Always use one kind as the prevailing stock or base. For a bad, acid, or mucus stomach use menus consisting of more vegetables and very little fruits. For a stomach in better condition, or the average stomach, use more fruits and less vegetables. The following is an example. 1. For a bad stomach, take as stock 2/3 grated or shredded raw carrots, or grated celery or grated beets may be used, although carrots are best. Add I/3 of finely sliced very ripe bananas and a few raisins or sliced dried figs. No nuts or cereals. Never mix nuts with wet fruits. 2. For a bitter stomach, take as stock 2/3 sliced or grated apples, I/3 shredded carrots, or celery or beets. To increase the efficiency of this combination in its aggressive, dissolving functions as a mucus and poison. 119. Eliminator. Add more raisins, sliced dried figs, honey, or a fruit jelly. Fruit acid dissolves waste and forms gases. Fruit sugar ferments in the waste and stirs up, also forming gases. Both eliminate, and for this reason it can become harmful if they work too intensively. It is therefore advisable to use raw vegetables as a brew more frequently. For the same reason, use stewed fruits in the beginning, or at least half and half, for example half raw grated apples, with the skin, and half applesauce, sweetened with honey. A square meal substitute. Before a crisis, during or shortly after, or to satisfy a craving for wrong food especially rich in fat, you may take this once in a while. While it is too rich it is much less harmful than a square meal and will be found to be very enjoyable. Take some grated coconut, mixed or eaten together with applesauce, stewed prunes or sweetened apricots. Very ripe bananas, or if unripened and baked, will be found to satisfy when unusually hungry. Other kinds of grated nuts, or nut butter may be served once in a while for this purpose, but are too rich in protein and will produce, if continually used, mucus and uric acid. Improved cooked vegetables. Only one kind of cooked vegetable should be used at 120. One meal. It may be eaten either cold or warm, and mixed with green salads and raw vegetables. If cabbage, carrots, turnips, beets, cauliflower, onions, etc., are slowly stewed in a very little water, or best, if carefully baked, they become sweeter, which proves that the carbohydrates are developed into grape sugar, more or less, and the mineral salts are not destroyed and not extracted. This is in fact an improvement and not waste. In winter canned foods may be used as a substitute for fresh ones. I differ from the raw food fanatics because the food value is not important in a diet of healing. It is of more importance that the patient should and shall enjoy his change of diet during the transition until his tastes and conditions have improved. Special mucus eliminator recipes. 1. Raisins and figs or nuts, masticated thoroughly with raw green onions at the same time. These must not be eaten separate. Why? To secure best results. 2. Grated horseradish mixed with honey. After mixing allow to stand to take off sharp taste. The honey is only used to make it more palliative. 2/3 horseradish, and I/3 honey, or to suit the taste. The ordinary radish, especially the black radish, may also be used the same way, or finely sliced and eaten alone as a salad. For consumptives who cough without spitting, give 1 spoonful every once in a while. There is a surprising amount of mineral salts in radishes, especially the black radish. 121. Recipe/or a special dissolve-er of hardened mucus and uric acid. With the following recipe I once healed a woman, who after 6 years of paralysis, became entirely normal, when both fasting and the mucusless diet failed to effect a recovery. It cannot be taken into a mucus-filled stomach. The recipe follows: take the juice and pulp of 4 lemons. Grate the peel of 1 lemon and mix with the juice. Sweeten with honey, brown sugar, or fruit jelly to taste. The object of the sweetening is to make the mixture less sour and bitter. Dressings. This is really a question of personal taste. A good salad or olive oil with lemon juice to taste is simple and good. A spoonful of peanut butter or nut butter dissolved in water and a little lemon juice added is another simple recipe. Add finely sliced onions, green, is desired. Homemade mayonnaise, using lemon instead of vinegar, is not especially harmful during the transition diet and can be used if you enjoy it. Tomatoes cooked into a sauce, or a good canned tomato soup mixed with the dressing may help you enjoy the transition diet. Drinks. Even if the use of table salt is discontinued, you will sometimes be very thirsty during your transition diet, because your mucus, now back in the circulation and the waste of decayed unnatural foods, eaten with salt during 122. Your former life is very salty. When in the circulation you will suffer from unnatural thirst. A light lemonade with a little honey or brown sugar will relieve the thirst much better than plain water. The juice of any of the acid or subacid fruits makes a good drink, and the best is sweet apple cider, if not too sweet. Postum, cereal coffee, or even light genuine coffee, if this was your customary drink, can be used during the transition period. Supplement to transition diet menus and combinations. The standard menu of the day in my sanitarium, besides special prescriptions for patients under personal treatment, was as follows. A drink in the morning. Lunch, 1 or 2 kinds of fruits. Supper, vegetables, mucus lean or mucusless. This diet quickly brings the average man, not called sick, into better condition. Slight spells may be manifested in some manner or other, but an old chronic or severe disease, caused chiefly through a drug-poisoned body, must be treated by systematically and individually prescribed daily menus, continually changing same, speeding up and slowing down, according to the patient's changing condition. The Mucusless Diet Healing System is not a propa. 123. Ganda-like vegetarianism or the raw food movement, it is a clinical therapy of eating that has to be studied and intelligently advised. And prescribed personally, the same as is being done by all other methods of drugless healing and therapeutics. This diet heals every disease if it is possible to be healed at all, because all disease-producing foods are finally eliminated from the diet menus, and the new ones loosen, stir up, remove and eliminate, clean, heal and cure the body. You build up a new and for the first time in your life a perfect, natural blood composition such as is defined in Lesson 17. This new blood removes and eliminates finally and unfailingly every disease matter even though your doctor failed to locate exactly where it was. See lessons 3 and 4. The function of healing, the operation without the knife, the cleansing, eliminating process begins almost immediate, why and must of necessity be conducted, controlled, and supervised for weeks and even months to secure proper results. The knowledge contained in these lessons is sufficient to enable the student to properly supervise his own individual case. The menus, combinations, mixtures, and recipes are therapeutical adjustments to enforce the self-healing of the body, called disease, and not to suppress or to stop it as is done with drugs. The average patient expects the right diet to help him. 124. At once, therefore the great desire for curative menus and mixtures. Even most of the advanced doctors imagine that a few menus and combinations from one day to the other is all the knowledge necessary. As yet they don't know the truth that you have learned in the previous lessons, that physiology and pathology are fundamentally wrong, that all present-day ideas about food and nourishment are entirely wrong and diametrically opposite to the truth. Therefore they do not have the slightest idea what happens and what must happen in the human system, if for the first time in the patient's life the decades-old waste and poisons are stirred up and have to be eliminated through the circulation. You must realize and perceive that you are starting on an entirely new and perfect revolution, regeneration, and rejuvenation of your body, when you change your diet in this way, and it cannot be accomplished within a few days by simply eating some good menus and mixtures. Mucus-lean recipes. If a little starchy food is eaten after a meal it can be called a mucus-lean diet. But these starchy foods can be made less harmful by destroying or neutralizing more or less stocky properties of the pasty starch. The more the potato is baked the better. Toast well done is best. Raw cereals should be roasted first whenever desired, and will be found to work as a good intestinal broom. 125. Although they contain stimulants. Rice is a great mucus-bound armor because it makes the best paste, but it can be improved by soaking overnight in water. You will notice that the water becomes very sticky and slimy and of an awful odor. Pour off the water from the rice and either fry or bake it a little. A mucus-lean bread recipe. Mix a rough bran flour or whole wheat flour with raw grated carrots, half and half. Add only as much white flour as necessary to keep the dough. Add some with grated apples and a handful of grated nuts, also if desired, some raisins. Bake very slowly and well. This is best eaten when 2 or 3 days old or well toasted. 126. Vegetarian recipes. Lesson 16 Part 2. Some improved recipes of salad dressings. Condiments are much less harmful than mucus-forming foods. The so-called poisonous table salt is a very good mucus dissolver. The average mixed starch eater could not stand this diet without salt. Of course with the perfect mucusless diet the want and need of salt will be eliminated automatically, and with that the unnatural thirst. Mayonnaise. Beat thoroughly for at least 5 minutes 1 egg, to which add very slowly a few drops at a time 1 pint of good salad oil. Wesson or Mazola. Continue beating while adding oil. Add lemon juice, salt, and pepper to taste. If tomato flavor is desired you may add the juice of 1 tomato. French dressing. Mix teaspoonful lemon juice, 4 tablespoons oil, L teaspoon honey, L teaspoon salt, L teaspoon of paprika. Mix 1 L tablespoons of oil with the dry ingredients, stir well and add the lemon juice. As dressing thickens through stirring, add the rest of the oil and a little garlic flavor if you like. Some standard mucusless cooked recipes. As I said before you may call the cold slaw and carrot. 127. Combination the standard transition salad. Now I will give you the standard cooked mixture. Serbian vegetable goulash. Stew in a very little water or in olive oil or in a vegetable fat, coarsely sliced white or red cabbage and some sliced onions with some sliced sweet peppers, when in season, and finish stewing with some sliced tomatoes, a little salt and pepper if desired. Red or white cabbage with onions baked or broiled in a little fat and tomato sauce as a gravy is an appetizing dish. The same can be done with cauliflower, carrots, Brussels sprouts, beets with the leaves, etc. The idea is to bake dry as possible and to afford occasionally an enjoyable harmless substitute for the chops, roasts, etc., which you have discontinued. Some special suggestions concerning my cookbook. You will notice that all menus and recipes are surprisingly short. If you fall back into the same gluttony-like mixtures, eating foods as described in vegetarian cookbooks and even in raw food books, you will never be perfectly healed. The ideal menu for man is the mono diet, consisting of 1 kind of fruit in season, and I must again remind you that no animal in freedom is a mixed eater at 1 meal. You learned that I use partly cooked food during the transition diet, and in the beginning the vegetables prevail. 128. This has for its purpose the slowing down of the elimination, for it is well known that people can stand a stewed or baked fruit whereas they cannot stand the same kind when fresh. Vital food is not the entire object to be gained at first, but rather their property to dissolve and to eliminate. This vital healing efficiency is most perfect in all kinds of fresh fruit and will be found to be too aggressive for the majority of patients. This is undoubtedly the cause of the wrong ideas and reason for the fruit fast being in ill repute, and it is the same reason why I use stewed and baked fruits in the beginning to slow down the elimination. Whenever you feel bad, the cause is that you have too much dissolved mucus and probably old drugs in the circulation, then slow down the elimination by not eating raw fruits, nor even cooked fruits at all, and for a few days eat cooked or raw vegetables only. Vegetables work more mechanically and dissolve less. Later on, when the roughest waste is eliminated from your body and it becomes necessary, like in all cases of a severe chronic disease, to carry the elimination by the new blood deeper and deeper into the tissue system, the diet must be restricted more and more, as the healing process continues. In the following lessons you will learn how a fruit fast must be undertaken, what scientific therapeutical fasting is, and last but not least how the mucusless. 129. Diet is probably combined with fasting if found necessary, or the principles and the details of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. Note, Professor Ehret frequently refers to having purposely omitted recipes, in spite of repeated requests, and gave as his reason, in nature, such as exists in the animal kingdom, there are absolute. Why no mixtures at all? The ideal and most natural method of eating is the mono diet. 1 kind of fresh fruit, when in season, should constitute a meal, and you will find yourself better nourished. This condition, of course, cannot take place until you have thoroughly cleansed your body of toxemic poisons, mucus, or call it foreign substances. We feel sure that Professor Ehret would have approved and granted permission to include a few mucus-lean recipes, particularly of salads, in this 9th edition of his Mucusless Diet Healing System, after being convinced as we have that the public demand requires substitutes from the present-day acknowledged method of food preparation, if they are to successfully take up the Ehret method. And so, with this thought in view, and with the hopes of converting many more to the Ehret system, we present a few sample menus simply as examples of how to combine and prepare a meal. Numerous other equally tasty menus can be arranged. 130. By simply changing either the cooked vegetable or combination of raw vegetables. The ideal diet of man is the mono diet, and mixtures are prone to lead to gluttony, so that this should be remembered when arranging the meal. 1. Always eat fruit first. The digestion of ripe fruits takes place within a normal stomach within a few minutes after eating. Wait 5 or 10 minutes before eating your vegetable course. 2. Do not drink liquids of any kind with meal. Liquids of all kinds, including soups, interfere with proper digestion of meal. At least 30 minutes should elapse before drinking after eating. 3. Man's food is fruits and herbs. Genesis 2. For healing purposes, uncooked, starchless green leaf vegetables, parsley, carrots, celery, lettuce, combined with fruits both in their natural and cooked state, will be found to be much better than an exclusive fruit diet. 4. Mix but few varieties. Fruit meals should consist of not more than 2 kinds of fruits in season. Your appetite will dictate the quantity to be eaten. 5. Never eat nuts with juicy fruits. When nuts are eaten with fruits such as oranges, apples, pears, etc., the water makes nuts indigestible. Dried fruits, figs, raisins, dates, prunes, can be eaten dry with nuts. Chew together and masticate thoroughly. The fruit sugar helps to digest the nuts. 6. Nature's open book is simplicity. The fewer food mixtures the better. 3. Different varieties should be sufficient. 4 and 5 is often too many. 7. Do not overeat. Mother Nature requires moderation in all things. 131. Sample menus. Cottage cheese and applesauce mixture. Add raisins if desired. Place on bed of lettuce and serve. A 10-minute intermission affords the family an opportunity of talking over the pleasant happenings of the day, and always bear in mind that laughter aids digestion. Salad. Natural combination salad. Baked cauliflower. Boil cauliflower until about half done and bake in oven until brown. Use a suitable vegetable shortening when baking in preference to butter fats. Serve either hot or cold, and add dressing to suit. 2 pieces soya buck toast. Dried fruit, such as raisins, dates, figs, and walnuts or pecans, chewed together. Salad. Cooked combination salad. Serve on lettuce leaves. Baked Irish potato. Fresh fruit in season such as peaches, apricots, grapes, etc., Russian salad, tomatoes, carrots, celery, watercress, onions. Swedish rye crisp. Carrot and raisin salad. Ehret Serbian goulash. Toasted whole wheat bread. 132. Applesauce with raisins. Cold slaw salad. Slice raw cabbage finely. Add lemon juice to soften and allow to stand at least 1 hour before serving. Add chopped onions, celery, and cold cooked carrots or peas. Dressing to taste. Baked sweet potato. Mashed ripe bananas with fresh strawberries and honey to sweeten. Mexican coleslaw. Baked banana squash. Cottage cheese and apricot jam, lettuce and tomato salad. Ripe olives. 1 cooked vegetable. Baked potato. Baked apple with honey. Elimination salad. Baked artichoke. Soya buck. Stuffed prune salad. Vegetable chop suey. Baked potato. Baked apple or applesauce. Baked beet tops. Whole wheat toast. 133. Salad recipes. Natural combination salad. Large bowl of lettuce cut very thin, 4 handfuls radishes, cut very fine, 4 handfuls tomatoes, chopped, 2 handfuls parsley, rubbed very fine. Add oil and lemon juice, and mix thoroughly, let stand 15 minutes. Serve with mayonnaise if desired. May salad. Large bowl of chopped cabbage, 1 cup of radishes, cut fine, 1/2 cup sweet green peppers, chopped fine, 1/2 cups chopped tomatoes, 1 cup green onions, chopped fine, 1/2 cup parsley, chopped fine, 1 cup cucumbers, chopped if in season. Mix thoroughly. Add 2 tablespoons lemon juice and 3 tablespoons mayonnaise. Garnish with olives or radishes, for decoration. Apple and celery salad. 2 cups cubed apples to which lemon juice has been added to keep from discoloring, 1 cup chopped celery, 1/4 cup fine chopped parsley, 1 handful seedless raisins, 2 tablespoons mayonnaise, mix thoroughly. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Cabbage salad. 2 cups shredded cabbage, 1 cup finely chopped green peppers. Add 2 tablespoons lemon, soak 10 minutes. Add 2 tablespoons mayonnaise dressing. Mix thoroughly. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Decorate with chopped pimiento. Carrot and raisin salad. 2 cups coarsely shredded carrots. Soak 1/2 cup seedless raisins about 2 hours, 1/2 cup finely chopped celery. Mix thoroughly. Add 2 tablespoons mayonnaise. Stuffed prune salad. Fill centers of cooked prunes with cottage cheese. Place 1 blanched almond in center of cottage cheese. Serve on lettuce leaves with mayonnaise. Cooked combination salad. 1 cup diced cooked carrots, 1 cup cooked peas, 1 cup chopped cooked string beans, 1/2 cup finely chopped raw celery. Mix thoroughly, add mayonnaise. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. 134. Serbian slaw. 1 cup coarsely chopped celery, 1 cup finely sliced cabbage, 3/4 cup finely chopped onions, 3/4 cup minced olives, 1 tablespoon chopped pimiento. Add oil and lemon juice. Fruit salad, served in apple shell. Select good-looking apples. Cut off piece of top and remove meat of apple. Chop together the apple hearts, pineapple, and grapefruit, and cherries, in equal parts. Add lemon juice. Sweeten with honey and place in the shells of apples. Sprinkle with grated coconut. Mexican cold slaw. 2 cups of finely sliced red cabbage, 1/2 cup chopped celery, 1 cup red kidney beans, 3/4 cup chopped onions, 3/4 cup chopped peppers. Add olive oil and lemon juice. Carrot and apple salad. 1 cup chopped carrots, 1 cup cubed apples, soaked in lemon juice, 1/2 cup. Chopped celery, finely chopped onions to flavor, 1/2 cup finely sliced dates. Add olive oil and lemon juice. Soak for 15 minutes. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Some 1 salad. 1 cup chopped watercress, 1/2 cup chopped tomatoes, 1/2 cup diced cucumbers, 1/2 cup diced celery. Add olive oil and lemon juice. Mix thoroughly and serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Russian salad. 2 ripe tomatoes, 4 medium-sized carrots, diced, 1/2 finely chopped onion, 2 sprigs chopped watercress, 2 stalks celery, cut in 1-inch lengths and split. Mix with mayonnaise. Serve on bed of lettuce. Garnish with sliced tomatoes. Asparagus salad. Cook asparagus and cut into 3-inch lengths. Make bed of finely sliced lettuce. Put asparagus on lettuce. Add mayonnaise if desired. Cauliflower and pea salad. Cook cauliflower and break into small pieces. To 2 cups cauliflower, add 1 cup cooked peas and 1 cup chopped parsley. Add mayonnaise and serve on lettuce leaves. 135. Asparagus and cauliflower salad. And asparagus and cut tips in 3-inch lengths. Boil cauliflower and break in small pieces. Mix together in equal portions. Add mayonnaise. Serve on lettuce leaves. Brazilian salad 1 and 1/2 cups ripe strawberries, 1/2 cups cubed pineapple, fresh, 12 blanched thinly sliced Brazil nuts, marinated in 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. Arrange lettuce on plates in rose shape. Fill crown with above mixture. Cover with spoonful of mayonnaise. Decorate with strawberries. Date and celery salad. Chop dates and celery equal parts. Serve with mayonnaise, on lettuce. Waldorf salad 1 and 1/2 cups diced apples, 1/2 cup lemon ios, 1/4 cups diced celery. Mix apples, celery, and lemon juice well together. Use crisp, tart apples. Drain off lemon juice. Add mayonnaise dressing. Serve on crisp lettuce. Decorate with grated walnuts. M_ox chicken salad 2 cups finely sliced cabbage, 1 cup celery, 2 tablespoons finely chopped onion, 1/2 cup green peppers, finely chopped, 1 cup cubed nut loaf cold. Add 2 tablespoons mayonnaise. Mix thoroughly. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Decorate with olives. Grated carrot and spinach salad 1 cup grated carrots, 1 cup chopped spinach, 1 cup cold slaw. Add lemon juice to spinach and cold slaw, and soak 10 minutes. Prepare salad plates with leaves of crisp lettuce. Bottom layer cold slaw, second layer chopped spinach. Top layer grated carrots. 1 spoonful mayonnaise, and ripe olive in center for decoration. Elimination salad 2 cups chopped spinach, 2 cups cold slaw, 1 cup fresh green peas, 1 cup chopped celery. Mix thoroughly. Add lemon juice and oil. Serve as desired. 136. Watercress salad. Make bed of lettuce. Chop watercress. 2 tomatoes, sliced. Mixed salad. Chop lettuce leaves, a large bowl, 2 cups chopped tomatoes, 1 cup chopped celery, 1 cup chopped onions, 1/2 cup chopped parsley. Mix thorough, add lemon juice and oil. Onion salad 2 cups finely sliced cabbage, 1 cup sliced red onions, 1 cup chopped tomatoes, 1/2 cup coarsely chopped parsley. Add 2 tablespoons mayonnaise and mix thoroughly. Serve on crisp lettuce leaves. Decorate with radishes. Cooked vegetable recipes. Mock ham loaf 1 pound nut olein, 3/4 pounds produce, 4 teaspoons of it or VHX, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 3 tablespoons margarine, 1 tablespoon onion juice, 3/4 ounces VHX gelatine, 1 cup boiling water. Mix half a pound of the nut olein with 2 tablespoons margarine. Set aside to use later. To prepare gelatine, soak for 30 minutes in warm water. Remove from water and put to cook in boiling water for 8 minutes boiling. Strain. Cook in the boiling water. Mince the produce and mix with all other ingredients. Set on ice. When cold, cover with nut olein and butter. Cut in slices. Garnish with spray parsley. Stuffed onion. Select good-sized onions. Remove slice from top of each onion. Parboil onions until almost tender. Strain and remove centers, making 6 cups. Chop onion that was scooped out. Combine with soft crumbs and produce, or chopped pepper and tomato pulp. Add seasoning to taste. Refill onion cups. Place in pan and cover with onion crumbs. Add 1/2 cup milk. Bake until tender. Produce cutlets 1 pound savory loaf, 1 cup bran flakes, 2 cups milk, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon salt. Cut can of produce in halves and 137. Cut each half into 12 slices. Sprinkle bottom of dripping pan with 1/2 of bran flakes. Beat eggs until whites and yolks are well blended. Add milk and salt. Pour over savory loaf. Bake in very slow oven until set. Spinach loaf. Wash spinach thoroughly. Cook in its own juice until tender. Drain and chop. Chill and add onion finely chopped, and the celery, finely cut dash. Moisten with French dressing. Mold and bake in pan. Garnish with hard-boiled eggs if desired. Serve hot or cold. Produce hash 1 and 1/2 cups produce, 2 cups potatoes, cold, boiled or baked, 4 tablespoons oil, 2 onions, chopped, salt, 2 tablespoons flour. Brown whole wheat flour and onions in oil, add 2 cups hot water, cook until done. Add remainder of ingredients and bake until brown. Produce stew 1 tablespoonful butter, 1 tablespoonful parsley, minced, 4 cups strained tomatoes, 4 onions, 2 tablespoons flour, 1 pound produce. Put butter in saucepan. Add sliced onion and parsley and cook 10 minutes. Stir in flour and mix thoroughly. Add tomatoes. Stir well to free from lumps. Cover and cook 20 to 30 minutes. Slice produce into small pieces and simmer in sauce 10 minutes. Salt and serve. New England boiled dinner 4 and 1/2 cups potatoes, 1 cup turnips, 2 cups onions, 1 3/4 cups carrots, 2 1/2 cups cabbage. Cut potatoes, carrots, and turnips in 3/4 inch cubes. Slice onions. Cut cabbage into pieces about 1 1/2 inches square. Boil potatoes and onions together. Cabbage may be either cooked separate, or added to carrots and turnips when they are partially cooked. When all are done, mix together and serve with slices of produce or other nut food that has been braised in a tomato or brown sauce. Baked artichokes boil until done. Remove from water. Spread. 138. Open a few of outside leaves and add garlic doves. Place in pan. Pour over olive oil and bake in oven about 25 minutes. Eggplant hash cut in half lengthwise. Place in oven until baked to a mushy pulp. Remove and peel. Mash. Add fried onion. Season with salt and pepper. Bake beet tops. Boil beet tops and spinach separately, half of each. Drain and chop. Braise onions. Add chopped celery. Mix all together. Put in pan. Cover with breadcrumbs and bake. Vegetable chicken locking 2 stalks sliced celery, 2 cups chopped bell peppers, 1/4 cup pimiento, 1/2 cup green peas, 1/2 cup carrots, cubed. Add sliced onion. Make cream whole wheat flour gravy. Serve on whole wheat toast or parties. Mock chicken croquettes. Make base of braised onions, bell peppers and celery. Add mashed baked potatoes, carrots, peas or other cooked vegetables if preferred. Toasted breadcrumbs. Mold and bake in Crisco until golden brown. Vegetable chop suey. Braise coarsely chopped onions. Put in pot to bake. Add chopped celery, bean sprouts, chopped bell peppers, water chestnuts, dried mushrooms. Soak mushrooms at least 3 hours before using. Tomatoes to flavor. Add diced produce. Bake as dry as possible. Mock country sausage. Boiled brown rice, breadcrumbs, toasted celery, chopped walnuts, peanut butter, sliced onions braised in vegex. Flavor with garlic and sage. Salt to flavor. Mold in round balls. Bread and dip in hot Crisco until golden brown. Vegetable hamburger. Braise onions with bell peppers. Add garlic to taste. Cook together. Add toasted breadcrumbs, celery, walnuts and hominy. Mold and bake in oiled pan. Serve with onions. 139. Stew. Eat bell peppers. 4 large peppers, L 1/2 tablespoons margarine, 1/2 tablespoons whole wheat flour, 1 cup milk, 1/2 cup chopped nut meats, 1 cup breadcrumbs, 1/2 cup diced celery, 4 teaspoons grated onion. Remove seeds from peppers and parboil 10 minutes. Drain. Make sauce of margarine, flour, and milk. Add chopped nut meats, celery, bread alms, and grated onion. Season to taste with salt and pepper. Fill cooked drained peppers with mixture. Spread additional crumbs on top of peppers. Bake in Crisco or margarine. Bake tomatoes. Cut tops from tomatoes and scoop out pulp. Season pulp with grated onions and parsley. Replace into shells of tomatoes, put tops back on, cover and bake for 25 minutes basting. With good salad oil. Arrange on bed of watercress or lettuce around it. Buy sliced cooked beets. Use dressing desired. Carrot nut loaf. 2 cups coarsely chopped carrots, 1/2 cup crumbs, 1 cup chopped celery, 3/4 cup chopped walnuts, 1 cup mashed tomatoes, 1/2 cup braised sliced onions. Mix together, add 2 tablespoons margarine. Place in loaf pan and bake 1/2 hour. Vegetable sausage and sauerkraut. 1 cup sliced onions, 2 cups natural brown rice, 1/4 cup finely chopped peanuts, 1/2 cup crumbs. Braise onions in margarine. Soak rice overnight, or at least 6 hours, and after pouring off water, add fresh water and boil until soft. Mix rice, peanuts, and onions. Mold in shape of sausages, dip in egg and roll in fine cracker crumbs. Dip in hot Crisco until golden brown. Warm sauerkraut and serve. Onion 1 talion slice in about 1/2 inch thickness. 2 good-sized zucchini, 1 good-sized tomato, 1/2 red onion, sliced, and 1 small dove of garlic, if desired. Cook zucchini and onions for about 30 minutes, add tomatoes, and cook additional 10 minutes. 140. New potatoes and string beans. Steam potatoes and ped. Cook string beans with as little water as possible. Place both on baking pan and add chopped parsley. Pour over Italian olive oil and warm in oven for 15 minutes. Serve. Corn sauté. 2 cups shipeg corn, 1/4 cup chopped bell peppers, braised, 1/4 cup chopped onions, I cup chopped pimientos. Mix ingredients and bake 15 minutes in a slow oven. Vegetarian corn. F 1 cup of cubed carrots, 1 cup of cabbage, coarsely chopped, 1 cup nut meat savory loaf, 1/2 cup potatoes, 1/2 cup celery chopped. Steamed vegetables. Fill baking pan 1/2 full with brown gravy, add ingredients, brush lightly with margarine, and bake 10 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Italian meatball. Soak spaghetti, whole wheat, and cook until tender, about 2 cups, 2 cups of nut meatloaf, 1/2 cup onions, 1/2 cup chopped celery, 1/4 cup hot peppers, or to flavor. Mix ingredients, after adding Spanish sauce. Form in balls, bake in pan and serve with Spanish sauce. Mock halibut cutlets with tartar sauce. 2 cups lima beans, 1/2 cup sliced onions, 1/2 cup bell peppers, 1/2 cup farina. Boil lima beans until soft, braise onions and bell peppers together with Viejex flavoring. Mix ingredients, dip in breadcrumbs and bake after molding in any form desired. Serve with tartar sauce made without vinegar or pickles, and sprigs of parsley. Nut loaf. 1 cup hot cooked brown rice, 1 cup chopped walnut or pecan meats, 1 cup whole wheat cracker crumbs, 1 egg, 1 cup milk, 1 tablespoon melted margarine. Mix rice, chopped nuts, crumbs and then add beaten egg, milk, and salt to taste. Turn mixture into greased loaf pan, pour over margarine, cover and bake 1 hour moderate oven. Serve with tomato sauce. 141. Fasting, Part 1. Lesson 17. It is significant for our time of degeneration that fasting, by which I mean living without solid and liquid food, is still a problem as a healing factor for the average man, as well as for the orthodox medical doctor. Even naturopathy required a few decades in its development to take up nature's only, universal and omnipotent remedy of healing. It is further significant that fasting is still considered as a special kind of cure, and due to some truly marvelous results here and there, it has quite recently become a worldwide fad. Some expert nature cure advocates plan out general prescriptions of fasting, and how to break a fast regardless of your condition or the cause from which you are a sufferer. On the other hand, fasting is so feared and misrepresented that the average man actually considers you a fool if you miss a few meals when sick, thinking you will starve to death, when in reality you are being cured. The medical doctor in general endorses and, in fact, teaches such foolish beliefs regarding nature's only foundational law of all healing and curing. He fails to understand the difference between fasting and starvation. Whatever has been designed and formulated to eliminate. 142. The disease matters and designed as natural treatments without having at least some restriction or change in diet, or fasting, is a fundamental disregard of the truth concerning the cause of disease. Have you ever thought what the lack of appetite means when sick? And that animals have no doctors, and no drugstores, and no sanitariums, and no machinery to heal them. Nature demonstrates and teaches by that example that there is only one disease and that one is caused through eating and, therefore, every disease whatsoever it may be named by man, is and can be healed by one remedy only by doing the direct opposite of the cause by the compensation of the wrong i.e., reducing the quantity of food or fasting. The reason so many, especially long, fasting cures have failed and continue to fail is due to the ignorance which still exists regarding what is going on in the body during a fast, and ignorance still existing even in the minds of naturopaths and fasting experts up to the present date. I dare say there may not be another man in history who has studied, investigated, tested and experimented on fasting as much as I did. There is no other expert at present, as far as I know, who conducted so many fasting cures on the most severe cases, as I did. I opened the first special sanitarium in the world for fasting, combined with the mucusless diet, and fasting is an essential part of it. 143. Mucusless Diet Healing System. I have likewise made 4 public scientific tests of fasting of 21, 24, and 32 days, respectively, as a demonstration. The latter test is the world's record of a fast conducted under a strict scientific supervision of government officials. You may therefore believe me when I teach something new and instructive about what actually happens in the body during a fast. You learned in lesson 5 that the body must first be considered as a machine, a mechanism made of rubber-like material which has been overexpanded during its entire life through overeating. The functioning of the organism is continually obstructed by an unnatural overpressure of the blood and on the tissues. As soon as you stop eating, this overpressure is rapidly relieved, the avenues of circulation contract, the blood becomes more concentrated and the superfluous water is eliminated. This goes on for the first few days and you may even feel fine, but then the obstructions of the circulation become greater because the diameter of the avenues becomes smaller and the blood must circulate through many parts of the body, especially in the tissues, at and around the symptom, against sticky mucus pressed out and dissolved from the inside walls. In other words, the bloodstream must overcome, dissolve, and carry with itself mucus and poisons for elimination through the kidneys. When you fast you eliminate first and at once the primary obstructions of wrong and too much eating. This 144 results in your feeling relatively good, or possibly even better than when eating, but, as previously explained, you bring new, secondary obstructions from your own waste in the circulation and you feel miserable. You and everyone else blames the lack of food. The next day you can notice with certainty mucus in the urine, and when the quantity of waste, taken in the circulation, is eliminated, you will undoubtedly feel fine, even stronger than ever before. So it is a well-known fact that a faster can feel better and is actually stronger on the 20th day than on the 5th or 6th day, certainly a tremendous proof that vitality does not depend primarily on food, but rather from an unobstructed circulation. See Lesson 5. The smaller the amount of O, obstruction, the greater P, air pressure, and their pound or V, vitality. Through the above enlightening explanation you see that fasting is, first, a negative proposition to relieve the body from direct obstructions of solid, most unnatural foods, second, that it is a mechanical process of elimination by contracting tissues pressing out mucus, causing friction and obstruction in the circulation. The following are examples of vitality from P, power, air pressure alone. One of my first poundasters, relatively healthy vegetarian, walked 45 miles in the mountains on his 24th fast day. A friend 15 years younger and myself walked 56 hours continually after a 10-day fast. 145. A German physician, a specialist in fasting cures, published a pamphlet entitled, Fasting, the Increase of Vitality. He learned the same fact that I did, but he does not know why and how, and vitality therefore remained mysterious for him. If you drink only water during a fast, the human mechanism cleanses itself, the same as though you would press out a dirty watery sponge, but the dirt in this instance is sticky mucus, and in many cases pus and drugs, which must pass through the circulation until it is so thoroughly dissolved that it can pass through the fine structure of the physiological sieve called kidneys. 146. Fasting, Part 2. Lesson 18. As long as the waste is in the circulation you feel miserable during a fast, as soon as it is through the kidneys you feel fine. 2 or 3 days later and the same process repeats itself. It must now be clear to you why conditions change so often during a fast. It must now be clear to you why it is possible for you to feel unusually better and stronger on the 20th fast day than on the 5th, for instance. But this entire cleansing work, through continued contracting of the tissues, becoming lean, must be done by, and with the original old blood composition of the patient, and consequently a long fast, especially a too long fast, may become in fact a crime if the sick organism is too greatly clogged up by waste. Fasters who died from too long a fast did not die from lack of food, but actually suffocated in and with their own waste. I made this statement years ago. More clearly expressed, the immediate cause of death is not a poverty of the blood in vital substances, but from too much obstruction. O, obstruction, becomes as great as or even greater than P, air pressure, and the body mechanism is at its death point. I gave all of my poundasters lemonade with a trace of honey. 147. Or brown sugar for loosening and thinning the mucus in the circulation. Lemon juice and fruit acids of all kinds neutralize the stickiness of mucus and pus. Acid paste cannot be used for sticking purposes. If a patient has ever taken drugs over his entire life period which are stored up in the body like the waste from food, his condition might easily become serious or even dangerous when these poisons enter the circulation, when he takes his first fast. Palpitation of the heart, headaches, nervousness may set in, and especially insomnia. I saw patients eliminate drugs they had taken as long as 40 years before. Symptoms such as described above are blamed on the fast by everybody, and especially doctors. How long should one fast? Nature answers this question in the animal kingdom with a certain cruelty: fast until you are either healed or dead. In my estimation 50 to 60% of the so-called healthy men of today and 80 to 90% of the seriously chronic sick would die from their latent diseases through a long fast. How long one should fast cannot be definite. Why state it at all, in advance, even in cases where the condition of the patient is known? When and how to break the fast is determined by noting carefully how conditions change during the fast. You now understand that the fast should 148. Be broken as soon as you notice that the obstructions are becoming too great in the circulation, and the blood needs new vital substances to resist and neutralize the po-isins. Change your ideas regarding the claim: the longer you fast the better the cure. You may now readily understand why. Man is the sickest animal on earth. No other animal has violated the laws of eating as much as man. No other animal eats as wrongly as man. Here is the point where human intelligence can correctly assist in the self-healing process by the following adjustments which embrace the mucusless diet healing system. First, prepare for an easier fast by gradually changing diet towards a mucusless diet, and by laxatives and enemas. Second, change shorter fasts periodically with some eating days of cleansing, mucus-free and mucusless diet. Third, be particularly careful if the patient used much drugs, especially if a mercury or saltpetre, oxide of silver, taken for venereal diseases, have been used, in which case a long, slowly changing, preparative diet is advisable. An expert's suggestion to fast until the tongue is clean caused many troubles with fanatical poundasters, and I personally know of one death. You may be surprised when I tell you that I had to cure patients from the ill effects of too long a fast. The reason will be clear later. 149. In spite of the above, every cure, and especially every sire of diet should start with a 2 or 3 day fast. Every patient can do this without any harm, regardless of how seriously sick he may be. First a light laxative and then an enema daily, makes it easier as well as harmless. How to break a fast. The right food after a fast is as important and decisive for proper results as the fast itself. At the same time, it depends entirely upon the condition of the patient, and very much upon the length of the fast. You may learn from the results of the 2 extreme cases, both of which ended fatally, not from the fast, but from the first wrong one, ill, just why this knowledge is so important. A one-sided meat eater, suffering from diabetes, broke his fast which lasted about a week by eating dates and died from the effects. A man of over 60 years of age fasted 28 days, too long, his first meal of vegetarian foods consisting mainly of boiled potatoes. A necessary operation showed that the potatoes were kept in the contracted intestines by thick, sticky mucus so strong that a piece had to be cut off, and the patient died shortly after the operation. In the first case, the terrible poisons loosened in the stomach of this one-sided meat eater during his fast when mixed with the concentrated fruit sugar of the dates caused at once so great a fermentation with carbonic acid gases. 150. And other poisons that the patient could not stand the shock. The correct advice would be, first a laxative, later raw and cooked starchless vegetables, a piece of rough bran bread toast. Sauerkraut is to be recommended in such cases. No fruits should be eaten for a long time after fast has been broken. The patient should have been prepared for the fast by a longer transition diet. In the second case, the patient fasted entirely too long for a man of his age without proper preparation. Hot compresses on the abdomen, high enemas might have helped the elimination, together with a strong eliminative laxative and then starchless, mostly raw, vegetables, no fruits for a considerable time. Through these two very instructive examples you may see how individually different the advice must be, and how wrong it is to make up general suggestions concerning how to break a fast. 151. Fasting, Part 3. Lesson 19. Important rules to be carefully studied and memorized. What can be said in general, and what I teach is new and different from the average fasting experts, and is as follows. 1. The first meal and the menus for a few days after a fast must be of a laxative effect, and not of nourishing value as mostly all others think. 2. The sooner the first meal passes through the body the more efficient. Why? It carries out the loosened mucus and poisons of the intestines and the stomach. 3. If no good stool is experienced after 2 or 3 hours, help with laxatives and enemas. Whenever I fasted I always experienced a good bowel movement at least 1 hour after eating, and at once felt fine. After breaking a long fast I spent more time on the toilet than in bed the following night, and that was as it should be. While sojourning in Italy many years ago, I drank about 3 quarts of fresh grape juice after a fast. At once I experienced a watery diarrhea set in earning mucus. Almost immediately after I experienced a feeling of such unusual strength that I easily performed the knee bending and arm stretching exercise 3-5-2 times. This removal so. 152. Thoroughly of obstructions, taking place after a fast of a few days, increased P vitality at once. You will have to experience a similar sensation to believe me, and then you W111 agree W1th my formula A, V-P-O, and you will realize the absurdity of making up scientific nourishing menus for health and efficiency. For the longer the fast the more efficiently the bowels perform after it is over. 5. The best laxative foods after a fast are fresh sweet fruits, best of all are cherries and grapes, then a little soaked or stewed prunes. These fruits must not be used after a meat eater's first fast, but only for people who have lived for a certain time on mucus-less or at least mucus. Pork poundeds the transition. D.1 et. 6. In the average case it is advisable to break the fast with raw and cooked starchless vegetables, stewed spinach has especially good effect. 7. If the first meal foods do not cause any unpleasantness, you may eat as much as you can. Eating only a small quantity of food for the first 2 or 3 days without experiencing a bowel movement owing to the small amount of food taken, another wrong advice given by experts. 1s. Dangerous. 8. If you are in the proper condition so that you can start eating with fruits, and you have no bowel movement after about an hour, then eat more or eat a vegetable meal as suggested above, eat until you bring out the waste. 153. Accumulated during the fast with your stool, after eating the first meal. Rules during the fast. 1. Clean the lower intestines as well as you can with enemas, at least every other day. 2. Before starting a longer fast, take a laxative occasionally, and by all means the day before you start the fast. 3. If possible, remain in the fresh air, day and night. 4. Take a walk, exercise, or some other physical work only when you feel strong enough to do it. If tired and weak, rest and sleep as much as you can. 5. On days that you feel weak, and you will experience such days when the waste is in the circulation, you will find that your sleep is restless and disturbed, and you may experience bad dreams. This is caused through the poisons passing through the brain. Doubt, loss of faith, will arise in your mind, then take this lesson and read it over and over, as well as the other fasting chapters and especially lesson 5. Don't forget that you are, parenthetically speaking, lying on nature's operating table, the most wonderful of all operations that could be performed, and without the use of a knife. If any extraordinary sensation occurs due to the drugs that are now in the circulation, take an enema at once, lie down, and if necessary break the fast, but not with fruits. 6. Whenever you arise after lying down, do it slowly, otherwise you may become dizzy. The latter condition is 154. Not serious, but you had better avoid it in this manner. It caused me considerable fear in the beginning, and I know a number of poundasters and strict eaters who gave up when they experienced the sensation, lost their faith forever. Fasting drinks. The fanatic fasting enthusiast drinks only water. He thinks it best to avoid any trace of food whatsoever. I consider a light lemonade with a little honey or brown sugar or a fruit juice the best. Drink as often as you care to during the day, but in general not more than 2 or 3 quarts a day. The less you drink the more aggressive the fast works. As a change, vegetable juices made from cooked starchless vegetables is very good during a longer fast. Raw tomato juice, etc., is also good. But if fruit juice, for example, orange juice, is used during a long fast, be extremely careful because the fruit juices may cause the poisons to become loosened too rapidly without causing 9ga bowel movement. I know a number of such fruit or fruit juice fasts which failed complete. Why? Because all mucus. And all poisons if loosened too fast and too much at one time disturbs all organs too greatly when in the circulation, and can be eliminated only through the circulation and without the aid of bowel movements. Morning fast or non-breakfast plan. The worst of all eating habits nowadays is to stuff the stomach with food early in the morning. In European 155 countries, excepting England, no one takes a regular meal. For breakfast, it is generally a drink of some kind with bread only. The only time that man does not eat for 10 to 12 hours is during the night while he is asleep. As soon as his stomach is free from food, the body starts the eliminating process of a fast, therefore encumbered people awaken in the morning feeling miserable and usually have a heavily coated tongue. They have no appetite at all, yet they demand food, eat it, and feel better. Why? Another mystery riled. This is one of the greatest problems I solved, and is one that puzzles all experts who believe it is the food itself. As soon as you refill the stomach with food, the elimination is stopped and you feel better. I must say that the secret which I discovered is undoubtedly the explanation of why eating became a habit and is no longer what nature intended it should be, namely a satisfaction, a compensation of nature's need of food. This habit of eating, affecting all civilized mankind and now physiologically explained, involves and proves the saying I coined long ago, life is a tragedy of nutrition. The more waste that man accumulates, the more he must eat to stop the elimination. I had patients who had to eat several times during the night to be able to sleep again. In other words, they had to put food in the stomach to avoid the digestion of mucus and poisons accumulated there. 156. Fasting, Part 4. Lesson XX. You have just read in Lesson 19 about patients eating several times during the night in order to sleep again. You have been taught why this happens. Upon awakening you may perhaps feel fine, but instead of getting up you remain in bed and fall asleep again, have a bad dream, and actually feel miserable upon awakening the second time. You can now understand the exact reason for this. As soon as you get up and move around, walk, exercise, the body is in an entirely different condition than during the sleep. The elimination is slowed down, the energy being used elsewhere. If eating breakfast is eliminated from your daily menus, you will probably experience some harmless sensations, such as headaches for the first 1 or 2 days, but after that you will feel much better, work better, and enjoy your luncheon better than ever. Hundreds of severe cases have been cured by the non-breakfast fast alone, without important changes in diet, proving that the habit of a full breakfast meal is the worst of all, and most injurious. It is advisable and really of great advantage to allow the patient to have the same drink for breakfast that he is accustomed to. If he craves coffee, let him continue his drink of coffee, but absolutely no solid food. Later on. 157. Replace the coffee with a warm vegetable juice, and still later change to lemonade. This change should be made gradually for the average mixed eater. The 24-hour fast, or 1 meal a day plan. As with the breakfast fast, you can heal more severe cases with the 24-hour fast, or in cases of deep chronic encumbrance and drugs it is a careful, preliminary step to the necessary longer fasts. The best time to eat is in the afternoon, say, 3 or 4 o'clock p.m. If the patient is on the mucusless or transition diet, let him eat the fruits first. Fruits should always be eaten first, and after an elapse of 15 or 20 minutes eat the vegetables, but all should be eaten within an hour so that it is, so to say, 1 meal. Fasting when used in connection with the Mucusless Diet Healing System. As I have stated before, I am no longer in favor of long fasts. In fact, it may become criminal to let a patient fast for 30 or 40 days on water, contracting the avenues of circulation, which are continually filled up more and more with mucus and by dangerous old drugs and poisons, and at the same time rotten blood from his old stock, in fact actually starving from necessary vital food elements. No one can stand a fast of that kind without disadvantage, or without harming his vitality. If fasting is to be used at all, then start at first with 158. The non-breakfast plan, then follow with the 24-hour fast for a while, then gradually increase up to 3, 4 QR 5-day fasts, eating between fasts for 1, 2, 3, or 4 days a mucusless diet, combined individually as an elimination adjustment, and at the same time supplying and rebuilding the body continually with and by the best elements contained in and found only in mucusless foods. Through such an intermittent fast the blood is gradually improved, regenerated, can more easily stand the poisons and waste, and is able at the same time to dissolve and eliminate disease deposits from the deepest tissues of the body, deposits that no doctor ever dreamed existed, and that no other method of healing has ever discovered or can ever remove. This, then, is the Mucusless Diet Healing System, with fasting an essential part of it. Fasting in cases of acute disease. Hunger Cures Wonder Cures was the title of the first fasting book I ever read. It gave the experiences of a country doctor, in which he said, no feverish, acute disease must nor can end with death if nature's instinctive command, to stop eating through lack of appetite, is followed. It is insanity to give food to a pneumonia patient with a high fever, for instance. Having had an unusual contraction of the lung tissues by a cold, the pressed out. 159. Mucus goes into the circulation and produces an unusual heat fever. The human engine, already at the bursting point through heat, becomes more heated through partaking of solid food, meat broth, etc., good, nourishing foods, so-called. Air baths taken in the room, enemas, laxatives, cool lemonade would save the lives of thousands of young men who are now daily permitted to die, the innocent victims of pneumonia or other acute diseases due to the stubborn ignorance of doctors and so-called highly civilized people. The superior fast. Please try and memorize the lesson on metabolism, lesson 9, because it is the most important truth of my new physiology, also lesson 5, and you will clearly understand fasting with all its possible sensations. All experts, excepting myself, believe that you live from your own flesh during a fast. You know now that what they call metabolism-metabolize your own flesh when you fast, is simply the elimination of waste. The Indian fakir, the greatest faster in the world today, is nothing but skin and bones. I learned that the cleaner you are, the easier it is to fast, and the longer you can stand it. In other words, in a body free from all waste and poisons, and when no solid foods are taken, the human body functions for the first time in its life without obstruct. 160. The elasticity of the entire tissue system, and of the internal organs, especially of the spongy lungs, work with an entirely different vibration and efficiency than ever before, by air alone and without the slightest obstruction. Stated differently, V equals P, and if you simply supply the engine with the necessary water which is used up, you ascend into a higher state of physical, mental, and spiritual conditions. I call that the superior fast. If your blood stock is formed from eating the foods I teach, your brain will function in a manner that will surprise you. Your former life will take on the appearance of a dream, and for the first time in your existence your consciousness awakens to a real self-consciousness. Your mind, your thinking, your ideals, your aspirations, and your philosophy changes fundamentally in such a way as to beggar description. Your soul will shout for joy and triumph over all misery of life, leaving it all behind you. For the first time you will feel a vibration of vitality through your body, like a slight electric current, that shakes you delightfully. You will learn and realize that fasting and superior fasting, and not volumes of psychology and philosophy, is the real and only key to a superior life, to the revelation of a superior world, and to the spiritual world. 161. Destructive diet PF civilization and the mucusless diet, the natural food of man. Lesson XXI. You have now learned that total abstinence from food fasting is the best and most effective method of healing. This proves with logical consequence how small a quantity is in fact necessary to sustain life and justifies my oft-repeated statement. The wonder is that we live in spite of our excessive eating, in spite of our eating such wrong, destructive foods. In this light of truth it almost appears ridiculous to note the endless fight and confusion regarding dietetics, protein, mineral salts, vitamins, etc. The potential food value is not the first question at all. You cannot heal drunkenness by water without stopping the intake of alcohol. You cannot heal disease through any kind of adjustments, treatments, or diets, without stopping the eating of the foods which produce disease, the latter being 90/0 of the present-day destructive diet of civility. Zad 1 on. I named the natural food of man, fruits and starchless green leaf vegetables, as it is said in Genesis, fruits and herbs, mucusless diet, because mucus is the main and important and significant substance, while the other 162 wrong foods contain produce and encumber the human body with the matter of disease. The entire teachings of scientific dietetics, food values, statistics, etc., are useless and in vain as long as the first step is not taken, and that is to see the foods and their value from a principally different angle. How far and how much they produce and leave disease matter, mucus, in the body. To their dissolving, eliminating, healing properties. For this purpose I give you a special critique of the different foods, wrong foods especially, and you can see at once why they are destructive with no positive food value at all, but producing and leaving stored up waste in the body. See lesson 14 and you will find that Berg's investigations prove to be the same that I found by intuition, experimenting and through experience with myself and some thousands of patients. Meats. All are in a decomposing state, producing cadaver poisons, uric acid in the body and mucus. Fats are the worst, even butter is unusable for the human body. No animals eat fat. Eggs. Eggs are even worse than meats, because not only have eggs too high protein qualities, but they contain a gluey property much worse than meat and are therefore very constipating, quite more so than meat. Hard-boiled eggs. 163. Are less harmful, because the gluey qualities are destroyed. The white of eggs makes a very perfect glue. Milk. Also makes a good glue for painting. Cow's milk is too rich for adults and for babies, and plainly destructive. A baby's stomach cannot digest what a calf can. If milk must be used, then add at least half water and some milk sugar. Sour milk and buttermilk are less harmful and possess some laxative qualities. The gluey sticky properties disappear. Cottage cheese with stewed fruit, see lesson 15, is good for transition diet. All other kinds of cheese are highly acid and are mucus formers. Fats. All fats are acid forming, even those of vegetable origin, and are not used by the body. You will continue to like, crave and use them only as long as you can still see mucus in the magic mirror. What doctors call heat calories is caused by the fats in friction, obstruction in the circulation. They constipate the small blood vessels. Cereals. Cereals and all flour products form mucus and acid. The worst of all is white flour, because it makes the best paste. Bran, gram, whole wheat, or rye bread are less harmful, because they have lost their sticky properties. When well done or toasted and well baked they are much less harmful. Raw cereals, if toasted, are to some extent. 164. A mucus broom, but contains stimulants, wrongly believed to be food value. Pies made of rough unbaked dough are, according to my belief, absurd. When eaten with sweets and acids they are mucus and gas producers the same as French pastry. Legumes. Lentils, dried beans, and dried peas are too rich in protein, the same as meat and eggs. The peanut is a legume also. Potatoes. A little better than flour products, because they contain more mineral salts, see Berg's tables, nor do they make a good, sticky paste. Sweet potatoes come close to natural sweets, but are too rich. Well fried, or crusty, baked like Saratoga chips, but without the animal grease, sweet potatoes are almost mucusless. Rice. Is one of the greatest mucus farmers and makes an excellent paste. I firmly believe through my experience with serious cases of sickness, awful boils, etc., prevalent among one-sided rice eaters, that rice is the foundational cause of leprosy, that terrible pestilence. Nuts. All nuts are too rich in protein and fat and should be eaten only in winter, and then only sparingly. Nuts should be chewed together with some dried sweet fruits or honey. 165. Never with juicy fruits, because water and fat do not mix. With the possible exception of nuts, the above represent about all of the foods which have to be prepared in some manner for eating. In fact they are tasteless unless specially prepared. All of these unnatural foods are extremely bitter, and in fact for a normal nose they possess an offensive odor. The sense organs of man are in a pathological state embodied in a pus like mucus and waste the same as the entire system, and being in a partly decayed condition themselves, they find this half-rotten food palatable. If the tongue is clean from mucus, and the nose for the first time free from dirty filth, both then become in fact magic. Rev 1 at 1 on. Organs, we may see ATH. Mirrors, 2M, the bridge of the sixth sense, that is, to sense the truth. You lose all desire for, and in fact cannot stand these stimulating spices, especially table salt, any longer. What civilized man calls good to eat, delicious taste, is absurd. Even then you hold and could not eat fats or animal foods without the cook's preparation, that is, the art to cover the real taste and odor by spices and dressings. In fact taste and smell vibrations are so far changed from the normal natural, that the heavy meat eater does not like the wonderful odor of a ripe banana. He prefers haute gout, a French word meaning the smell of half-decayed meat. No scientific food value tables will convince you of the truth. You must sense it with your cleansed organs, how wrongly you are fooled into believing that you nourish. 166. And build up health and efficiency by these foods which are in reality destructive, because they stimulate, or more truthfully, stop the elimination of your old waste until the day of reckoning comes, when you are officially sick. Paradoxically but true, civilized men starve to death through 10 times too much overeating of wrong, destructive foods. The sac, stomach, of digestion is enlarged and sunken, prolapsed, which condition dislocates and interferes with the proper functioning of the other organs. Its glands and pores of the walls are totally constipated and its elasticity as well as that of the intestines, with its vital function is almost paralyzed. The abdomen is an abnormally enlarged sac of fatty, watery, dislocated organs through which half or even more of the decayed foods of civilization slide, fermenting more and more into feces such as no animal has, and this is called digestion. Natural Food of Man, is the title of a book by Hereward Carrington. There are some others by European authors, who prove and show from every point of view that man has and must have lived in prehistoric times from unfired, natural foods, fruits and green leaf vegetables. However, a great philosopher once said, whatever must be first proved is doubtful. Whoever does not see or sense the truth at once will never believe it, even if it is proven thousands of times and from every possible angle. Even experts of fruit diet. 167. And raw food advocates have doubts that the degenerated man of today can live the paradisaical life. It took me a few years of continual testing and experimenting until I was thoroughly convinced in spite of the fact that I believed at once. Now memorize what I teach in lesson 5 and in the lessons on the new physiology. All others are on the wrong track, misled by the protein fat as well as through ignorance of how it looks inside of the body, what disease is, etc., but especially obstructive to a recognition of the truth is the ignorance as to what happens in the body if you eat fruits, fast or live on a mucusless diet. This fact that the interpretation of all and every sensation, which becomes more and more strange and new, the more and deeper healing process goes on, is based on the old physiology, and is therefore and must be consequently wrong. It is and was the stumbling block in the enlightenment about drugless healing in the first place, and advanced dietetics in particular. The natural diet was never systematically taken up, especially in combination with fasting, based on the truth of minute but correct physiology. This is absolutely necessary to learn and to understand. If you believe and know unshakably the truth of Lesson 5, as well as the other lessons bearing on this subject, you will never doubt any more that fruits alone, even of but one kind, not only heal but nourish perfectly the human body, eliminating entirely the possibility of disease. 168. All others, not knowing these new truths and not possessing the necessary knowledge contained only in the Mucusless Diet Healing System, can never secure a perfectly clean body and a complete healing as well as possess an understanding of every situation. They will never believe in the divine perfectness of the bread of heaven, as it is said the Lord will punish them by blindness, spiritual blindness, meaning that doubt, losing faith, and belief will return again and again as long as waste and old poisons are circulating through the brain for elimination. You are saved from this tragical error, I hope. The special qualities of fruits, green leaf vegetables, and their perfectness as human food is plainly shown in Berg's tables. The more free you become from any kind of waste and poisons, the more you will sense, feel, and believe this greatest of all truths, that the paradisaical diet is not only sufficient but brings you higher and higher into physical and mental conditions never before experienced. 169. Sex. Less on XXII. Sex diseases. T_for the knowledge received in past lessons, you now know and can realize more than any naturopath that there is no principal difference between any one kind of disease or another. In this particular case, however, we find an exception, but only insofar as the symptoms of syphilis are concerned. Venereal diseases can be healed by diet and fasting easily for the simple reason that the patient is generally young in years. The cure becomes more aggravated, made more difficult, if drugs have been used. This, of course, has unfortunately happened in almost every case. The so-called characteristic symptoms of any kind of syphilitic disease are due to drugs of one or several kinds. Gonorrhea. Nothing is easier to heal than this cold or catarrh at the sex organ, if untouched by drugs or injections. Doctors must admit that this condition may exist without actual sex intercourse, and therefore the germ can hardly be blamed. Gonorrhea is simply an elimination through this natural elimination organ. One-sided meat eaters are very susceptible to this disease. Should a society girl contract it, they call it leukorrhea. 170. If drug injections are used for any continued length of time, the mucus and pus are thrown back into the prostatic gland, bladder, etc. In case of the female, the entire womb, uterus, becomes inflamed, producing all kinds of typical woman diseases. I had hundreds of such cases where naturopathy failed to heal. Only fasting and mucusless diet can help. Rosella or rose rash, a syphilitical eczema, characterized by its ham gray shade, the gray shade of the whites of the eye, is due to saltpetric acid, silver oxide injections. This also is the cause if gonorrhea enters the bone. All three are called syphilitic symptoms. Mercury is to blame for the heart chancre, secondary and tertiary syphilis. The so-called syphilis does not exist in the animal kingdom, or among uncivilized people. Drugs are to blame for these destructive diseases, together with the diet of civilization. Sexual excesses are, of course, also to be blamed, but knowing exactly what disease is, you may agree if I expose the mystery of this disease with one stroke, i.e., drugs and extreme meat diet of civilization are far more to blame than all sexual excesses together. For a patient poisoned especially by mercury, a very careful and long transition diet is necessary. A radical fruit diet or fast may become harmful, not through itself but caused by the drugs /V, and they become dissolved and are back in the bloodstream for elimination. 171. This condition requires so careful a control of the elimination that under all circumstances an expert with previous experience is required. The so very common disease of dislocation, or falling of the womb, can be healed and only by this diet, together with long fastings combined with short fasts and with a long preparative diet. Prostatic gland inflammation, stricture, bladder disease, hundreds of these patients have I saved from the tortures of doctors. I have made cures even after naturopathy had failed by natural methods of elimination through a new and perfect blood composition resulting from a mucusless diet. Sex psychology. It is significant for our civilization that sexual intercourse is seen as an immoral act. It is yet the shade of a mystery. From a natural moral standpoint, says a philosopher, an unclean man has no right to produce a new being. You shall not only generate, but reproduce yourself, says that great thinker, Nietzsche. The fact is that we are all, with very few exceptions, the result of stimulants instead of love vibrations exclusively. Procreation is the most holy and divine act and charged with the highest responsibility, especially on the part of the father. A germ with the slightest defect is a generation not forward but downward. In very old and in classic civilization, sex was a cult, a religion, and in 172. Every mythology, poetry of all civilized people, love is the great, main, and general subject with the conscious or unconscious goal to reproduce its kind. The fact is proven by statistics that every family of the city's population dies out, disappears with the third or fourth generation. In other words, the sins of the fathers and of the mothers produce diseased children and children's children degenerating into death with the third generation. What are these sins? You shall love thy neighbor, and you do, perhaps, but you kill your own child, partly at least before it is born. Latent disease is general and universal. Besides the statistical fact that over 50% of all young men in large cities have gonorrhea and young women leukorrhea, how can a defective germ grow into a perfect being between a filthy, mostly constipated colon and an unclean bladder of a civilized mother? And one of the worst tragedies of ignorance is the expectant mother who eats twice as much decayed cadavers of animals killed years ago in the stockyards of Chicago, because she is advised to eat for two herself and the growing embryo. Natural control of sex. Nothing above the truth. Confess your sins to your own heart. It is a blasphemic paradox, tragical, there is no word strong enough, conditioned to stimulate a function continually with enforcement ignorantly expecting thereby. 173. To grow healthy and happy, believing you can suppress or control this function by preaching morals. Nature does not listen to you, but you must listen to nature if you want to be happy. We are the product of stimulations and not of natural love vibrations which eventually lead to impotence. The only way to heal impotence is through fasting and this diet. See Lesson 5. Sex is a part of vitality, it is even so to say, the barometer of regeneration, rejuvenation, youth, health, and happiness. I have seen sterility of the female healed, and every patient who earnestly took up the system for any kind of D. 1C31 No one of Western civilization knows what genuine love vibrations mean from a body with clean blood composed of such ingredients that produce electric currents and static electricity sent out and received by wireless hair. See what I have to say about hair in my rational fasting. The beard of man is a secondary sex organ. Beardless and hairless and bald makes for a second-rate sex quality in every respect. See Judges 16, 13-18. If you could believe how easy it is to control sex by this diet, you would soon quit your steaks and eggs. Masturbation, night emissions, prostitution, etc., are all eliminated from the sex life of anyone living on a 174. Mucusless diet after their body has become clean and powerful. The fallacy that saving, keeping the germ, an idea of modern experts, will nourish man's brain, high-protein substance, is absurd. Love is the greatest power, and it is, if natural, the highest invisible food from the infinite for soul and body. 175. Sex, continued. Motherhood and eugenics. Lesson XXIII. Motherhood with mucusless diet, before, during and after pregnancy is the development towards the Madonna-like, holy purity, principally different from the dangerous so-called ordinary childbirth, with its ever-present risk of life, known in our present civilization. If the female body is perfectly clean through this diet, the menstruation disappears. In scripture it is called by the significant word purification, which it in fact is, clean, no longer polluted by the monthly flow of impure blood and other waste. This is the ideal condition of an inside purity capable of the immaculate conception. When seen in the light of this truth, the entire Madonna mystery is easily understood. Every one of my female patients reported their menses as becoming less and less, then a 2, 3, and 4 months intermission, and finally entirely disappearing, which latter condition was experienced by those who went through a perfect cleansing process by this diet. Headaches, toothache, vomiting, and all other so-called diseases of pregnancy disappear, and painless childbirth, and ample sufficiency of very sweet milk, babies that never. 176. Cry, babies who are very differently clean, as compared with others, are the wonderful facts I have learned from every woman becoming a mother after having lived on this diet. It is not advisable to start a radical change in diet during pregnancy, or while nursing. This should be done at least 2 or 3 months before conception. Eating for 2, with a special diet is unnecessary if the body is clean. Modern babies are overfed, hence these dangerous childbirths. The only reasonable change is to increase the eating of natural sweets such as figs, raisins, dates, grapes, etc. Feeding the baby. If mother's milk is found to be insufficient or bad, do not use plain cow's milk. It should be diluted with at least 1/3 to 1/2 water and sweetened with milk, sugar, or honey. Start feeding the baby as soon as possible. A teaspoonful of good fruit juices, juice from stewed beets is also good, and honey diluted in water between meals. The baby's craving is sweet, and proves that fruit sugar is the essence of all dietetics. What is considered a well-fed and healthy-looking baby, of average normal weight, is in reality pounds of waste of decayed milk. Whether the baby is sick or not, as soon as you commence feeding it fruit juices and stewed mashed fruits, you will learn from the elimination that I am correct. The 177. Change must therefore be made very carefully. Babies and children must go through the same cleansing healing process as do adults. I believe that a baby well nursed by good mother's milk on this diet and without special protein foods will grow wonderfully, and after the weaning period is over could be raised on apples alone. As stated before, if a change of this kind in the baby's diet is made, they must be healed first, whether sick or not, cleansed from the waste of their latent disease. That is the point that everyone refuses to believe, realize, or understand. Natural sweets are necessary for the growing child for building a strong skeleton. Lime is also important. See Berg's tables. I learned through the few examples that we had in Europe, that the character, the mind in general of the growing child, is greatly and beneficially influenced by this diet, with the progress of the purity of the body. The troubles of raising children from which you can be saved are enormous. No more children's disease. Thousands of mothers, unconscious. Why through overeating have killed their children before they are born. Here then is the only correct way to fight infantile mortality. There is no higher moral duty of any kind than to produce a perfect being. Eugenics of a diseaseless, superior race. Using a plant as a comparison, motherhood can be 178. Said to represent the quality of the soul, fatherhood represents the quality of the seed of the germ. A relatively poor, almost barren soil but a good quality of seed produces a fairly good plant, but a defective seed, even though planted in the best of soil, nothing. Breeders of animals, especially horse breeders, know that the quality of a thoroughbred father goes through endless generations, even spanning over a chain of indifferent mothers. This is why inheritance of good and bad qualities, tuberculosis for instance, skips a whole generation. As in every respect of life, this problem is different also, and, of course, is different in the case of a clean body on natural diet. Medical doctors and naturopaths alike will hardly believe at all in the new principles and arguments which I have brought out, and postulated in this work. They reason and figure with the facts and experiences of the filthy body living on the unnatural diet of civilization. One cannot reason about colors with a man born blind. You cannot use the old arguments and the old physiology to gainsay my statements. Until you have personally experienced on your own body the truth of my teachings, you will have to accept and believe the new ones. Realize, please, what this means: superior fastings as they were taken by the prophets of old. During a period covering some decades, and even partly. 179. Today, the science of eugenics believed in the necessity of outside breeding. They consider outside breeding an absolute necessity for animals and the human race based on the bad results which accrued from the inbreeding of humans. It is nothing less than the problem of the future of the American nation: mixing races or inbreeding. The Jewish race is the answer, the only example in existence that inbreeding is natural and perfect. Marriage of close relationship fails simply because we have degenerated too far, in comparison with the people of their ancestor Abraham. Outside breeding is a stimulation with an apparently good result, lasting only for 1 or 2 generations, and then, in general, the family dies out. The European royal family kept their genealogical tree clean, securing good results only as long as they did not live in modern luxury. The families of noblemen are rapidly disappearing because they fail to continue the generation of males. The luxurious diet of today instead of the old-fashioned simplicity of centuries ago is to blame. Former generations lived as farmers, a more natural life. Today they are the typical high livers in modern Sodoms. No wonder an expiring degeneration is the result. Predetermination of sex. What I will endeavor to show here is how to produce a genius, and this will prove at the same time that the 180. Predetermination of the sex is based on a higher principle than on the time of conception only. Again and again, diet is everything, man is what he eats. Are not all geniuses, great men, inventors, the greatest artists of every kind, born of poor parentage? Why did the birth of boy babies increase during the European War? They will become good and intelligent men. Restriction in diet and restriction in sexual intercourse, that is all. The cleaner the body of both parents, the less frequent the intercourse, the smaller the quantity of good food, the greater the love vibrations become, and with these conditions the better the chance for a genius, and that is always a boy. The most ideal example of this truth, and it is said to be an historical fact, is this. During the Black Plague centuries ago, a number of young people took refuge together in a house in the neighborhood of Florence, Italy. 4 weeks they had nothing to eat and then, of course, only sparsely. They became married and generated the family of the Medici, which produced the greatest statesmen, artists, and scientists of every kind known in the history of Western civilization. We know that vitality vibrates through a waste-free body more perfectly than one encumbered with food, that is the superior fast with its indescribable conditions. Yet more difficult of description are love vibrations when man ascends to a godlike being, as he must have been in prehistoric times on the divine diet. The magnetic sex. 181. Emanations become so wonderful that love combined with gluttony appears as a crime. For the young couple to fast on their wedding day is a Jewish religious custom, but it is only a remainder of a hygienic law of that great statesman Moses to generate geniuses through superior waves of love through the infinite. It is the principle by which the male stock, when living on clean food, has the opportunity to generate a diseaseless, superior one. Everyone who travels a little further upwards on the road towards the paradise-like conditions of man will soon sense this truth. Man was once a higher, superior kind of being, not a species of the monkey family. We are only a shade of the original man, caused through our degeneration, but you may yet experience what cannot be described, that this kind of eugenics is the fundamental truth of evolution into heaven on earth. 182. The enforcement of elimination by physical adjustments. Lesson XXIV. As shown in previous lessons, all physical treatments vibrate, shake the tissues, and thereby stimulate the circulation in one way or another for the purpose and with the result of loosening and eliminating foreign matters, the cause of all diseases. The human body does this itself, in the most perfect way, as soon as you fast or as soon as your blood composition has been changed by natural diet. Physical treatments and physical culture can therefore be combined with this diet and fasting to enforce and to hasten the elimination. However, I must advise that extreme care be taken not to exaggerate, especially on bad days of strong elimination. If you are tired and you feel bad, then rest and sleep just as much as you can. On the days that you feel good during a fast or strict diet, you may take some physical treatment also, such as exercise, baths, massage, deep breathing, etc. The most natural exercises, and by far the best, are walking, dancing and singing, the latter being the natural breathing exercise with the added advantage of loosening by chest vibrations. An excellent exercise, and one that everybody knows, is hiking in the mountains, for when climbing hills, you increase your breathing in the most. 183. Natural way, better and more harmoniously than with any System O exercises. The cleaner you become, the more easily you will understand what I teach in lesson 5, that air and the other ingredients of the forests are food, invisible food. Both hands should be free when walking, so as to permit continually the natural movements. Outdoor garden work is another natural exercise. By taking the proper care of your body you will generate health. The following exercises are suggested for those who desire to keep physically fit. I must again remind you that air is more necessary to life than food. Proper breathing is therefore essential. Do not exercise in a close, stuffy room. Stand before an open window. Take a deep, full breath with each exercise. Inhale through nose and expel through mouth. Stand before a mirror while exercising and admire the suppleness and graceful manner in which you perform each movement. Fall in love with yourself if no one else will. Keep the feet about 15 inches apart, stand erect and use muscular tension. Exercise number 1. Standing erect, hands to the side, clench the fists tightly. Raise arms slowly as high above the head as possible, taking a deep breath. Relax and expel breath. Repeat 5. TTMES. Exercise number 2. Extend arms level with chest. Grasp hands tightly and 184. Pull to right side, resisting with left hand. Then go through same motion pulling to left side. Relax after each motion, expelling breath. Repeat each exercise 5 times. Exercise number 3. Grasp left hand firmly with the right in front of body. Resisting with the left hand, lift with the right, using full strength while raising the arms high above head. Take deep breath on upward motion, and relax before expelling. Repeat with the right hand resisting with the left, 5 times each. Exercise number 4. Clasp hands above the head, allowing them to rest on head. Bend to the right side, pulling hard, then to the left 5 times, then alternate first right and then left. Between each movement take deep breath and expel when relaxed. This exercise is especially good for stimulating the liver. Exercise number 5. Clasp hands in back of neck, holding all muscles tense. Twist to the right, then to the left 5 times. Now pull to the right and then to the left 5 times. Now pull to the left and then to the right 5 times. Hold legs rigid, but permit body to sway. Exercise number 6. Grasp the hands behind the back and without bending the body raise arms up as far as possible. Inhale on upward motion, relax and expel. Repeat 5 times. This exercise is for developing the chest. 185. Exercise number 7. Place right hand over right hip, clench left fist and raise left arm slowly, taking a deep breath. At the same time bend the body as far to the right as possible. Make it hurt. Relax and expel breath. Repeat with left hand placed on hip, and raising right arm with first tightly clenched. Repeat each 5 times. Exercise number 8. Grasp hands firmly in front of breast, all muscles tense and twist to left. Now twist to right as far as possible. Do not permit feet to move. Inhale during motion, relax and expel breath. Repeat each exercise 5 times. Exercise number 9. Raise arms above the head as high as possible, and even permitting body to bend backwards. Now bend body forwards and without bending the knees try to touch the floor with your fingers. Exhale breath when relaxed. Repeat this exercise slowly 5 times, and gradually increase to 20 times. Do not exhaust yourself in any of the exercises. If the exercises make you stiff at first, it is a sure sign that you needed them, and that they are doing you good. The soreness will soon wear off if you continue the exercises persistently. You may add other exercises to these, but be sure they have the deep breathing. Play your phonograph when exercising. Any snappy march piece will do. The vibrations from the music are wonderful. It is preferable. 186. To exercise the first thing in the morning immediately upon arising. If clothing is worn, it should be loose. Start with a few at first and gradually increase, but above all things, do not consider it a duty, but put fun into them. Dancing by yourself and bending movements to the accompaniment of music will prove very beneficial. Sunbaths. Whenever you have an opportunity of doing so, take a sun bath. In the beginning, do not exceed 20 to 30 minutes and keep the head covered. On bad days of great elimination, stay cool. The cleaner you become, the more you will enjoy the sun bath and the longer you will remain. You will also find that you can stand it much warmer. A short cool shower bath or a cool rub with a towel dampened in cold water immediately after the sun bath is good. The sun bath is an excellent invisible waste eliminator, and rejuvenates the skin, causing it to become like silk and coloring it a natural brown. Civilized men of our race show by their white skin that they are sick from birth on. They inherit the mucus, white blood corpuscles, the sign of death. As all of the clothing should be removed during a sun bath, a small enclosure just long enough to lay in should be built in your backyard, or even on the roof, away from prying, inquisitive eyes. The clothing of civilization has made it impossible for man to secure his proper quota of 187. The life-giving power of fresh air and sunshine, so essential to health and happiness. The direct rays of the sun on the naked body supply the electricity, energy, and vitality to the human storage battery, renewing it in vigor, strength, and virility. Internal baths. During the transition period, even though you have regular bowel movements, it is advisable to wash out the lower colon. The sticky waste, slimy mucus, and various poisons which nature is attempting to eject should be helped along as much as possible. A small bulb infant Inga can be used after the regular bowel movement, but for a thorough cleansing from 2 to 3 quarts of water should be used. Try to have a natural bowel movement before injecting the water. The body should be in a reclining position, lying on the right side. The syringe must not be higher than 3 or 4 feet above patient. Water should be warm, not hot, and can be tested on your elbow. Should any discomfort be felt, stop the flow until the discomfort passes, as the entire 2 or 3 quarts should be retained at one time. If the cramp or pain becomes too great, allow the water to pass from the colon and repeat the operation. The water should remain in the intestines about 15 or 20 minutes, or as long as convenient. While still lying on your side, gently massage the ascending colon in an upward motion. Then lie on the back with the knees drawn. 188. Up and massage from right side of body to left. Now turn over, lying on the left side, and massage the left side with a downward motion. You should now be ready for ejecting the water. The best time to take an enema is just before retiring. Bathing. Authorities differ on bathing almost as widely as they do on diet. The Mucusless Diet System will produce the skin you love to touch through clean blood supply, and without the aid of cosmetics, lotions, and cold creams. It is not necessary to take a daily hot bath with soap and brush under ordinary conditions. The morning cold shower during the entire year without any consideration of weather conditions is also inadvisable. There is no need to deliberately subject the body to an extreme shock, and in a number of cases more harm than good may result. Needless to state, the skin must be kept clean so that the pores may be permitted to properly function, and this can be accomplished by the following method. Place a basin of cool water before you. Dip the hands in basin and starting with the face rub briskly, wet the hands again and apply to the neck and shoulders, next rub the chest and stomach, next the ends and then the back, and last the legs and feet. Put the feet right into the basin if you care to. Keep moistening the hands as needed, but there is no necessity for throwing any quantity of water. 189. On the body. To dry off, rub with the bare hands for 5 minutes if possible, until the body is all aglow, or wipe with towel. This should be done upon arising immediately after you have taken your exercises. The results will surprise you. If you prefer a tub bath, then allow about 1 inch of cold water to run into the tub. Sit in same with knees drawn up, and follow the same rule of rubbing and massage as outlined above. Remember that the air bath is just as essential as the water bath. A few minutes each day spent before an open window, upon arising and just before retiring, when all clothes are removed, massaging the body helps the skin to retain its natural functioning qualities. Always bear in mind that extremes of any kind are harmful. This applies to exercise, bathing and sleeping, as well as extremes in eating. Even extreme joy and happiness has been known to kill just as readily as extreme anger, hate and worry. Therefore, avoid extremes of all kinds. 190. A message to Ehretists. Lesson XXV. Dear friends. After careful and intelligent study of the foregoing lessons, you now know that disease consists of an unknown, decayed and fermented mass of matter in the human body, decades old, especially in the intestines and colon. You like /vice know how unwise and ignorant it is to think that knowing /v had to eat is, alone, a complete diet of healing. None of the recognized authorities know the tremendous importance of a thorough and deep cleansing of the human cesspool. All are more or less fooled by nature when they advise eating of fruits with stomach and intestines clogged up by mucus and decomposed protein foods, eaten from childhood on. You have been taught the result. Should these poisons cyanide of potassium be dissolved too rapidly and permitted to enter the circulation, severe sensations, even death may occur, and man's natural food, oranges, grapes, dates, etc., are blamed. My teachings clearly prove that this hitherto unexplained ignorance regarding fruit diet is the stumbling block for all other food research experts, who have made personal experimental tests. Thousands of times have I heard the same cry even from young and supposed. Why? 191. Healthy persons became weak. And all experts with the exception of myself say, yes, you require more protein. At least eat nuts. During my personal tests, involving the same problem, I tried to overcome this stumbling block hundreds of times. After a 2-year cure, in Italy, of Bright's disease with consumptive tendency, by fasting and strict living on a mucusless diet, I ate 2 pounds of the sweetest grapes and drank half a gallon of fresh, sweet grape juice, made from the best and most wonderful grapes grown there. Almost immediately I felt as though I were going to die. A terrible sensation overcame me, palpitation of the heart, extreme dizziness which forced me to lie down, and I was seized with severe pains in the stomach and intestines. After 10 minutes the great event occurred, a mucus-foaming diarrhea and vomiting of grape juice mixed with acid-smelling mucus, and then the greatest event of all. I felt so wonderfully well and strong that I at once performed the knee bending and arm stretching exercises 326 times consecutively. All obstructions had been removed. For the first time in history I have shown what man was when he lived without fired foods during the prehistoric times, called paradise, eating fruits, the bread of heaven. For the first time in human history the demon in the tragedy of human life has been shown, and how he can and must be eliminated before man can again ascend. 192. To a paradisaical health, happiness, immunity from disease and godlike being. If the Garden of Eden heaven on earth ever existed, it must have been a fruit orchard. For thousands of years, through a wrong civilization, man has been tricked into unconscious suicide, reduced to slavery, to produce wrong food, earning his bread by the sweat of his brow. Unnatural foods cause sickness and death. Peace on earth, happiness and righteousness as yet remain a foolish dream. During thousands of years, God, paradise, heaven, sin, devil, hell seldom found an interpretation that a clear, reasoning mind would willingly accept. The average unfortunate fellow man thinks of God as a good and forgiving father who will allow him to enter paradise in another world unpunished for any violations of his laws in nature. I have proven for the first time in history that the diet of paradise is not only possible good enough for a degenerate mankind, such as we now are, but that it is the unconditional necessity and the first step to real salvation and redemption from the misery of life. That it is a needed key to the lost paradise where disease, worry and sorrow, hate, fight and murder were unknown, and where there was no death, from unnatural causes at least. Man is what he eats is a philosopher's greatest and truest statement. You must now see why civilization, all religion, all 193 philosophy, with their tremendous sacrifice of work, time, money, energy, is and has been part guesswork. The magic formula for heaven on earth of the paradise must read like this. Eat your way into paradise physically. But you cannot pass the gate, watched over by the angel with the flaming sword, until you have gone through the purgatory, cleansing fire, of fasting and diet of healing, a cleansing, a physiological purifying, by the flame of life in your own body. During thousands of years no one has escaped the struggle of death caused by an unnatural life, and you will have to face it someday. But you, I, and others who have learned this greatest and most important truth of life, are the only ones in existence today who are in fact, and not by mind only, out of the road of darkness and unconscious suicide, and into the light of the new civilization, the light of a physical regeneration as the foundation of mental and spiritual revelation, like progress to the light of a superior, that is to say, a spiritual world. This will give an outline of the serious nature of my work and the necessity for your help in carrying it through as the greatest deed you can perform, upon which depends not only your future destiny, but that of a suffering, unhappy mankind on the verge of a physical and mental collapse. Arnold, Ehret. 194. List of other publications. By Prof. Arnold, Ehret. Rational Fasting for Physical, Mental and Spiritual Rejuvenation. This thought-provoking book has enabled untold thousands to overcome chronic illness and return to superb health. Professor Ehret shows that nature alone heals and thoroughly cleans best, and infallibly sure, as soon as the supply of food is stopped. The mystery of the bacilli is solved in convincing and interesting language. 3rd edition. $1 Thus Speak the Stow 1/1 ACH. 3rd edition, 1952. A novel approach in which the author, Professor Arnold Ehret, lets the stomach, the germinating center of all disease, tell the story of the tragedy of man's nutrition. 25. Physical Culture, Fasting and Dietetics, also The Magic Mirror, 3rd edition, 1952. A treatise on physical culture in relation to health in which the author, Professor Arnold Ehret, show/vs that the highest degree of civilization can only be developed through physical culture, fasting and dietetics. 25. Definite cure of chronic constipation. A comprehensive statement of the deeper causes of constipation and how they can be definitely overcome and cured and not merely relieved. 25. Ehret Literature Publishing Co. 833 East 6th Street, Los Angeles 21, California. 190. This has been a production by the Mental Chemist, for study and education. Copyright 2024.